All right.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined as always by the bull in the woods, if you will, John, Boat of Car, Schaller. How's it going this week, Boat?
It's Friday. It's fun day.
Oh man, I'm so happy to get here. So if you recall last week, Lady Luck provided us with the NES to play this week. We're going to be playing selections from the vast NES, Nintendo Entertainment System library. But what can you tell us about the NES?
Well, the NES was originally launched back in '83 as the Famicom in Japan. Famicom being a portmanteau. I know I'm using a big word there.
I don't know what that means, but
it's where you take two full-size words and you smush them together. The Japanese love portmanteaus.
That's why you're the professor. So.
The family computer, the Famicom.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It was released in '85 in New York City, limited release, and then a wider release followed in '86 in the US and the rest of Europe. Here's an interesting factoid.
All right.
In South Korea, the Nintendo was released, but it was known as the Hyundai Comboy.
Oh boy, now did you have one of these?
I had a Super Comboy when I lived in but I had a Comboy version of Super Mario Brothers, which was pretty hard to find. But the reason why was because back in the day, there were strict rules on what Korea could import from Japan. And so Nintendo basically licensed out the design patents and everything to Hyundai. And actually, they were probably manufactured still by Nintendo, but there were shenanigans, and it was released in Korea as the Comboy. So why is the NES important? Well, the NES is widely thought to be basically the savior of the video game industry in the United States. People that are into computers don't necessarily like to hear that, but basically everybody in the industry, in the electronics industry, thought the video game market was dead. And Nintendo sort of, it rose from the ashes and kind of replaced Atari as the go-to console in America.
You know, I lived through this, so old as I am. And, a lot of people, I've heard people say, the video game crash, that's malarkey. Let me tell you something. As a youngster, I would go to like a KB Toys or something, and you would have one of those big containers right at the front gate of KB Toys, and they would be chock full of unboxed Atari cartridges. A buck here and there. They were given these things away.
So they took the cardboard off because it was just taking up too much space.
A lot of times they would have taken these on. They would have taken these on some sort of trade-in or something, or they just had some. I don't know where they got them. And I mean, every department store, every grocery store. I'm not lying. They had these huge vats of boxed and unboxed Atari games. They were everywhere. And then you would even see Coleco and Intellivision. Their stuff was just turned to dust because people were like, "We're done," And then the systems were going for rock bottom. I remember hearing many times where they would literally give you an Atari 2600 with a purchase around Christmas time or whatever, and whether you wanted it or not, you were taking home an Atari. I even heard the Atom, the same thing. The video games hit hard here, and when it hit, and I think retailers had been waiting for this to happen. I think there was a belief that that video games were sort of like toys, and every toy has the day when it tips over, right? And so they were blowing these things out. They're blowing them out.
Well, it's funny because the American video game press, as it was at the time, was very skeptical that the console would succeed. In the March 1985 issue of Electronic Games, they said the video game market in America has virtually disappeared, and that this was a big miscalculation on Nintendo's part trying to launch this thing.
Little did they know.
Yeah. I'll tell you something that you would be interested in.
All right.
Several members of the Famicom development team stated that there was an American console that was very influential in their development of the Famicom. Do you know what it was?
I really don't know. What was it?
The ColecoVision.
Really?
They looked at the ColecoVision and they saw how much better it was than the Atari. And they said, this is what we want to model our system after. We want our games to look like this.
That makes sense because, again, we talked about a couple weeks ago how successful the ColecoVision had been for the brief time it was around.
Right. Another thing that Nintendo brought with it was its cartridge licensing system that is still with us to this day. In the computer world, anybody can make a game, put it in a Ziploc bag and sell it.
Yep.
But to make a game on a console, starting with the Nintendo, you have to go through their licensing procedures, and you have to make sure that you're giving Nintendo a cut in order to legally manufacture and sell cartridges. And
now, they have a lockout chip, right?
Yeah, they've got a lockout chip, which is a big part of the reason why that the toaster design was, why you get your blinking NES was basically that's the lockout chip malfunctioning with the pin connectors.
Yeah, the one thing about the American version of the Famicom, it had many problems.
Right, and it's funny because in 1985 at the CES, Nintendo unveiled the American version of the Famicom, the NES, the system you see before you, and this was a selling point. Is they said, number one, this is a piece of computer electronics that looks more like a VCR than a VCS. You like that?
Oh, that's good. Plus, I mean, you are sort of inserting it like a videotape.
Right, especially in the old school VCRs with the push down thing. And they actually they titled the mechanism that they call it a zero insertion force.
Oh yeah.
Slot. And I think that they did see how sort of you have to rip the cartridge out of an Atari 2600, and they said we want to avoid that sort of motion.
Yeah.
And so this one, you pull it out and you push it in when it works. But
I will say clearly they had I don't know how this design came in time with the 7800 we looked at last week, but pulling cartridges out of the 7800 is like removing the sword from the stone. If you'll recall last week, I tried to do it on the show, and after 2 tugs, I'm like, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
So it can be real brutal to get those out of there.
Now, the Famicom launched in Japan with just 3 titles: Donkey Kong Jr., and today's game, Popeye. So Nintendo, again, going from that ColecoVision model, really wanted to showcase its own arcade machines on this home model. But when this was released in the United States in September 1986, it launched with 17 games. That's got to be one of the biggest launch lineups of all time.
Yes, I would say it may be the biggest.
And those games we know now as the Black Box series because they all came in a black box. So, Nintendo, they wanted to differentiate themselves from the video game market as it existed in America. And so they didn't call this thing a console. They called it, what do you know? A control deck.
Oh, yes. I do recall this now written on the box.
Yeah. On the games, they didn't call them games. They called them game packs, not video games. And so it was a combination of this and a combination of selling the NES with the robot, with the ROB. Yes. And so they were saying, look, this is actually more of a toy than a video game system. And this is you got this little buddy who's going to help you. Same thing with the Zapper. The Zapper, it's a toy. It's not just this video game thing like the 2600.
Now the robot, what was his name?
Rob.
Now have you had a Rob at some point?
I've never owned a Rob.
My buddy had one, and it was there. I don't recall ever seeing it in use.
I take it back. Yeah. I do own a Rob.
No, yeah.
I've got
a facsimile of Rob.
Yeah, this is a Amiibo Rob, and this is the Famicom version. You can tell from the color scheme, the NES Rob was the familiar gray and black.
I like how Nintendo has kind of reignited the Rob love here in the past decade or so, because he's been included in I know he's in Super Smash Brothers and whatnot, so that's always kind of neat.
Yeah, now Rob himself was actually terrible. All the games were awful. It was definitely a gimmick of the highest degree.
I think this was one of them, right?
Yeah, Gyromite, yeah. But anyway, when this was released, it was brought out in several packages. So you had at the top you had the deluxe set. Okay, so the deluxe set retailed at $179.99. It included a Rob, a light gun, or the Zapper, of course, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
Pretty good.
Okay, so that was a lot for your money when you consider what an Amiga cost in 1985.
Well, but you're getting a little. That's a whole different kettle of fish there. Yeah.
There was also the basic set, which it retailed at $89.99 with no game, and then $100 when it's bundled with Super Mario Brothers.
Now, did the basic come with 2 sticks or just 1?
I don't have that information here, but I want to say that it probably came with 2. Yeah. I think that the Nintendo was always marketed as a 2-player thing, especially when you think about the pack-in title, Super Mario Brothers, 2-player game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when a lot of people got on board, including myself, it was with the action set. And so the action set came out in '88, but it was around for the rest of the time after that. And that's your classic. This is the one that you still see, on eBay all the time. It's your console, 2 controllers, the Zapper, and Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt in the one cartridge.
Now, I know our family, my brother had to have one of these. As you know, Brent, shout out, is a big NES guy. And so we had the one that shipped with the track and field style game and the big floor mat. And the floor mat.
The power pad.
And as you can imagine, we weren't the most athletic brothers. And so I remember many days getting on the ground and beating the tar out of those little sensors to make our guys run quicker. Hated that game.
Yeah. That's I never had a power pad, and I've never used one. So
a wise decision.
Yeah. I consider that one of my strengths in life. So the system sold very, very well. In fact, Compute, remember that magazine, Compute?
Absolutely.
They reported in 1989 that Nintendo had sold 7 million NES systems in 1988 alone. 7 million in 1 year.
Wow. Yeah.
Almost as many of the number of Commodore 64 sold in its first 5 years. So this thing took off like no other video game unit ever before.
I've mentioned this before, but I remember the first time I saw an NES was at a Kmart in Charleston, West Virginia. I was there for Christmas with my family, and I saw this huge crowd gathered around something. And I went over to see what was going on, and there were a couple of dudes playing Super Mario. And I remember at the time, because again, video games have been around for quite a while at this point. I'd played plenty, and I thought to myself, "Wow, this is a game that looks so good." And looks like it plays so well that this is something that's people are never gonna get tired of playing. That's the first thing I thought. And lo and behold, young idiot Aaron was right about something because
you are a prophet.
The Super Mario Brothers still plays as well today as it did the day it came out. An excellent game.
It's funny, that's one of the things that we have in common. I also, too, saw an NES for the first time in a Kmart. It was the Taze Valley Kmart, and it was weird because they had this thing on an end cap by the checkout. It was just there, set up. Yeah, it was in a kiosk sort of thing.
What year would you figure that was?
It was probably late 80s, 88 or 89.
Yeah, this would have been 85 for me or 86. It was right. It must have been because it's the first time I ever saw one. It's funny because kiosks were kind of a big deal at Sears, and Atari always had their kiosk out, and man, those things look pretty sad about that. Just seeing it's like, well, we're done with that. Moving along.
I got my NES in 1990. I was obsessed, like almost everybody my age, young men. I was obsessed with the NES. I would dream about it at night. I got a subscription to Nintendo Power before I had an NES.
Dreamed about it, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make fun of it. You should dream about Dragon's Lair.
Hey, I'm just telling it like it is. I got chicken pox in 1990. And it is sort of a recompense for that. My parents took me to Circuit City. And this was after I was contagious, or the contagious part had stopped. It wasn't day one of chicken pox.
Real public enemies.
Yeah, so to spread it around, we went to Circuit City, and I bought it.
Just rubbed my skin on all the carts, handed them out.
But I still remember seeing, the black box games must have been sold forever, because in 1990, I still remember seeing them on the shelves. I guess they'd gone through several reprintings.
They were
and things
pretty
like
popular.
That. Yeah. But I still remember hugging that box on the way home and just reading the back of it over and over again.
You physically hugged the box?
I hugged the box. Yeah.
You were a lonely little lad, weren't you, Bode?
Often, I still am.
Oh, man.
But I got that, and I got Metroid, because my mom, a couple weeks before we got the Nintendo, when it had been decided that there would be a Nintendo, she'd gone to a yard sale and found Metroid for $5. And so those were back in the day when yard sales, you could
those days are
get good
over.
Stuff. Yeah. But anyway, the Nintendo went on to become the 7th best-selling console of all time. Now, do you have any guess as to what the most popular, or the best-selling console is of all time?
Oh boy. Well, if we're talking handhelds or
everything,
I would say the most. I'm pretty sure that the highest-selling console of all time is the PS2.
That's correct. You're right. The PlayStation. Actually, I thought that I had the handheld numbers in here, but they're not mixed in. This is just standalone consoles.
The Game Boy sold a ton.
Yeah.
And the Game Boy Advance sold a ton, too.
Now, in what is a sobering indictment of retro gamers everywhere, the NES is the best-selling oldest console. The top 6 are all things that have come out fairly recently.
Right.
PlayStation 2 is number 1. The PlayStation 1 is number 2. Then the Wii, the 360, the PS3, and PS4.
Yeah, you know, the NES, is there a more collectible home console? I don't know. I mean, maybe the Super Nintendo, but I mean, they're neck and neck. I mean, I've got one. I know obviously you've got this one. I've modded mine with a new, one of the Achilles heels on this thing was the zero insertion.
Yeah.
You know, when you push that thing down, it's the design, the engineering is just god awful, and the connector in there just gets warped and messed up. And so there's an outfit that sells one that's you don't actually shove down. You just literally push the cartridge in, and that's it. And you close the door. There's no shoving down.
Yeah.
A much more elegant design to keep this thing from going bad.
And is it pretty easy to pull out? It's
it
not
is.
a 7800 like situation.
No. People say it's hard to pull out, but after you've dealt with the 7800, which is, and it's funny, if you look at stuff like the Jag and the Odyssey 2, both come to mind. They've got little like handles almost. You can yank those things out, and you have no problems.
Right.
Man, the 7800, I don't know what it is about that console, but
it's like a vice grip inside of that thing.
You need a handle, or
a pulley system,
or some kind of power glove attachment. They can, like RoboCop.
So the NES, it produced so many, well-known IPs. There's, Metroid, Super Mario Brothers, The Legend of Zelda, Mega Man, Castlevania. These are things that are still, these are franchises that are still going on. I think that it's probably fair to say that the NES produced more longevity in its game characters than any other system.
Nintendo knows how to produce games and market games based on their franchises.
Yeah.
They're quite good at it.
Yeah. And the 2 games that we chose this week are none of those remembered franchises.
No, they're not.
So,
they're
Aaron,
completely cut off.
Why don't we start things off with your look at Popeye?
Great. So Popeye, to preface this, I was a big fan of the cartoon back in the day because I'm old, and so when this came out in the arcade, I was all over it, and who knew that it had such a colorful past? So Popeye came out, as Boat mentioned, it was a launch title in Japan. It came out in June of '86 in America, in the black box that you see before you there, if you're watching. This game was ported to a ton of systems. It's funny, I was looking over all the things it was ported to, and I've played a lot of these, actually, over the years, and it's one of the games, I don't know if it's a testament to how popular it was or how popular Popeye is, or it's strange, because when you think of like the great arcade games of all time, even me, who's a big fan of this, do you think of Popeye?
No.
It's got to be one of the most ported to even the most obscure systems. I mean, listen to this lineup of ports here. You've got the Commodore 64, of course, and the Atari 8-bit. You would expect those. This got ported to oddball consoles like the Atari 5200. It was on the ColecoVision. It was on the TI-99 4A, for Pete's sakes, and as we played a month or so ago, the Odyssey 2 got a bizarre port of Popeye.
We're not quite sure if that's a licensed port or not.
It was. That was one of the few officially licensed ports.
That only came out in Brazil?
It was, hey, listen, it's still officially licensed.
Okay.
It counts, man. And of course, it played a little bit differently than the arcade, but it's the Odyssey 2. What are you going to do? So Popeye is basically a hot seat, one player, 2 player, take turns type game. And the premise of the game is you are Popeye, and you are bound and determined to save olive oil from Brutus. So, to get just a little taste of what
Before we start,
go ahead.
because I know that you know a lot more about Popeye than I do.
All right.
I've heard the antagonists referred to as Brutus and Bluto.
Right.
So what's the story behind that?
It's funny you should bring that up, Boat.
I see that on your notes right
Yes,
there. I had no
happen to
idea.
have that.
That's hilarious.
So here's what happened, and I will say, and if I do it when I talk about Popeye on the show here, I will mix Bluto and Brutus intermittently without any regard for what's going on, because it's something you grew up, and we call them both, right? So what happened was, after the theatrical Popeye cartoon series, which this is back in the day when they would put cartoons in front of movies and whatnot. which was in '57. Bluto's name, his original name was Bluto. Okay, what a name! It was changed to Brutus because the King's Feature Syndicate there thought that Paramount Pictures owned the right to the word Bluto.
Really?
And that's why they changed it, which was wrong, by the way. It's funny because for the longest time, Bluto wasn't even named. He was just like big muscle guy or bad guy. Or, you know, Papa would not really talk about it much, but he would actually talk about him. So Brutus appears in all the cartoons after 1957, which would be 1960, 61, all the 60s cartoons. You had Brutus in them. And then eventually, this is well into like in the 80s. I think it's like 79, 80. There was another cartoon made, and Bluto actually would come back, which is, you know, why not, right? But in the video game, officially, you've got Brutus, all right? So despite what I say, you've got Brutus here. So let me ask you, what do you know about Popeye, the cartoon character? Did you watch the Popeye cartoons back in the day?
You know, I did. I think that they were frequently on Mr. Cartoon.
They were probably because they were cheap.
Yeah, the local show here in town. And I think that there was a newer Popeye too, sort of like an '80s Popeye.
Yeah, much like Scooby-Doo, Popeye's been reworked and redistributed over and over again.
Yeah, but I would not call myself a big Popeye fan. I cannot name individual episodes, things like that.
So Popeye is actually sort of an interesting character. Popeye was created by a person named Elzie Seeger, okay? And was a character that was basically guest appearing in old cartoons in the 20s, okay? And he started showing up on this thing called the Thimble Theater, and quickly became so popular that they just changed the name of it to Popeye. He's a one-eyed...
Sort of like a Detective Comics situation.
Right. He's a one-eyed sailor, and the one eye being the left eye, still intact. And... he ran forever. He was super duper popular. And of course, he got his own film. He had a whole host of characters, all of which, sadly, I know, because again, I watched Popeye, and a lot of which appear in the game, which is interesting. So, with that in mind, and the fact that Popeye was very popular all over the world, and in post-war Japan, Popeye was a character. I mean, keep in mind that Popeye had a daily comic strip that's still around, and they still give new comics, things on like 1 or 2 days a week. The rest of them are reprints. But I mean, think about that. This is a guy that debuted in the 20s.
Yeah,
I think he debuted in like a Betty Boop episode, like one time, and then they sort of moved him over. So post-war Japan, Popeye's a popular character. And Nintendo, when they were doing their card business and doing some other stuff, they were licensing a lot of stuff like Disney characters and whatnot. And they actually were trying to get the license to Popeye to produce the video game. And what they had in mind was Popeye was originally supposed to be the hero, and the whole game was supposed to be a Popeye game, which was Donkey Kong, the very first Donkey Kong game. And if you stand back and think about it, Popeye would have fit right in there. You know, for the most part, they would have made a few tweaks, but for the most part, he would have been perfect.
You know, I just recently read that when I was, you know, reading about this game for the show, and I mean, talk about a monumental, change. If Popeye had gone on to star in Donkey Kong, we wouldn't have Mario. I mean, it just wouldn't exist.
I saw a fellow speculating on that, and I'm not sure this would have been like Nintendo's Doom or anything. You got to think, Mario wasn't Mario in Donkey Kong.
Sure.
So technically, they still could have come up with him. I don't know. You know, and since they knew about him, maybe he would have maybe the original Mario Bros. Still would have been made. I don't know. But Popeye would have been a proper, he could have fit right into the Donkey Kong. I'm surprised there's not a hack out there where someone has hacked in olive oil and Popeye to Donkey Kong. They've hacked everything else into it. So, since Popeye did not appear in Donkey Kong for licensing reasons, shortly thereafter, Nintendo did license him, and he appeared in one of their handheld games, which bears no resemblance to this game. But that shows you that Nintendo was interested in getting something going with him. And then soon enough, they had Popeye in there, as an arcade machine. If you look at Popeye, if you listen to some of the sound effects, a lot of the stuff is very similar to Donkey Kong. So I'm guessing, I don't know how close the hardware was between Donkey Kong and Popeye, but I would not be surprised. I know certainly they recycled some of the sound effects, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was not a whole lot of difference between the two. And the cabinets are pretty similar looking too. And also in the arcade, Popeye was one of the original color cocktail arcade machines. You don't see those. That was something that was very unusual for the day.
You know, I don't know that I've ever seen a Nintendo cocktail game.
Sure. Yeah, they have.
Do they have the same kind of colorful bezel as the uprights?
I saw Popeye cocktail at an antique store, believe it or not. I felt old. And I'm trying to think, it was the color, I think it seems like it was cream colored. You know, Donkey Kong was in cocktail tables as well. So that, you know, obviously that predates Popeye by a little bit, but not by much. But they both had their appearances in the cocktail tables. Which for those that don't know much about arcade machines, a cocktail were the tabletop set down arcade games that you could set your drink on. They were often at pizza parlors.
Right. One of the things that I love about Nintendo cabinets is that they have a straight up and down bezel. You know, a glass bezel that's almost vertical, and then the screen is sort of set back a little bit, and it makes the whole effect kind of 3D. You can picture yourself losing yourself in the machine a little bit more.
Absolutely. So anyway, when this arcade game came out, it was pretty popular. I'm not gonna say very popular. I don't have numbers. I don't know how many it sold, but I mean I used to see them around when back in the day, and people knew about it. People were like, I remember when it first came out, I was real impressed with the cartoon graphics. I mean, it was really impressive. Popeye looks dead on like Popeye. Mm-hmm. Brutus looks like Brutus. You know, it looks good. Olive oil, pretty good. And so, of course, it was a no-brainer that Nintendo would pick this one to be one of their launch titles for the Famicom. It's funny that they would take Donkey Kong, which is effectively what Popeye was, Popeye what Popeye is, and then the sequel to Donkey Kong, smash it. When you could have put Popeye in that too, really, if you wanted to. And
you could have put Popeye in Donkey Kong 3.
Yeah. I mean, Donkey Kong 3 is that's the Donkey Kong no one talks about, isn't it? So the game itself. And the game is the same on the arcade as it is on the NES version. You're Popeye. You're trying to rescue Olive. Brutus is his usual jerk self. He has professed his love to Olive. Olive turned him down because she loves Popeye, and Brutus is mad. So he's going to pound Popeye into a fine powder, and it's your job playing Popeye to go around and collect the things that Olive is throwing out. In the first level of the game, you're at like a city or a town, like a seaside town, let's say that, and there are platforms, and Olive is throwing hearts down, and Popeye has to run around and collect these hearts. And if the hearts go into the very bottom level of the screen, they'll flash, and if they stay too long, they'll go away, and Popeye loses a man. And so, to inhibit you from getting these hearts, Brutus runs around and tries to beat the tar out of you. Second level is that you're in sort of a nighttime, like a larger city. Olive's on top of a building, and she's throwing down notes. All right, and you're supposed to catch all the musical notes.
These are music notes.
That's right. And then once you catch all the notes, the little song plays, and you finish the level. Again, Brutus is on your tail. And in the third level, you're on a boat, like a pirate ship, and Olive is saying help one letter at a time. H, E. Popeye has to catch him, and as he catches the letters, a ladder forms, and eventually, if you catch enough letters, the ladder goes up to the top. Popeye rescues Olive. You get a really nice, in the arcade, you get a real nice, like a profile picture of Popeye, and then the game loops. Mm-hmm. So, Nintendo does a pretty good job of this, and if you compare it to the other versions, it's one of the top versions. The main differences that I noted were Nintendo could not quite pull off the really nice detailed cartoon effects that the arcade could. It also, there are little flourishes that aren't in the Nintendo version that they're in the arcade. Example, at the beginning of the game in the arcade, the Popeye theme plays, and Brutus professes his love to Olive. He slides up on his knees, and then Olive throws a heart to Popeye. That's all. That's not in the Nintendo version. On the second level, you get a lot of your guest appearances. One of the appearances is Wimpy. Wimpy is a guy, if you ever heard the phrase, "I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today," that was Wimpy. He always wanted hamburgers all the time. And he's standing on like a teeter-totter. And to get back up to the top levels, Popeye has to run off a ledge, jump on the teeter-totter. Wimpy, who's heavier than Popeye, bounces up near a little bit, then bounces back down and shoots Popeye up to the top of the screen. There's no Wimpy on the NES version. He's not there. There's just a unweighted
seesaw
that so how this works, who knows? And then in the arcade, there's above the seesaw is Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea's a little orphan child. I'm not quite sure who Sweet Pea's legal parents are. I'm not sure that was ever spelled out, but I know that Sweet Pea's an orphan. And Sweet Pea's hanging on a balloon with sort of like a flat platform under his hiney with a couple handles on it. In the arcade, if you time it right, Popeye will bounce on the trampoline or on the teeter-totter, shoot up in the air, and he'll grab those little handles and you get points. In the Nintendo NES version, he hops on the teeter-totter, goes up, and just if he touches Sweet Pea with his head, he gets points. But he doesn't actually grab the little things. I mean, these are little tidbits, but there's something. You know?
And a lot of it, I think, has to do with just the fact that you can't cram that much detail into sprites that are this small.
Yeah. And then something else I noticed is that, of course, you don't get the cool profile of Popeye when you beat the last level. It just sort of keeps going. Now, as you advance in this game, of course, on the Nintendo, you've got an A difficulty and a B difficulty for 1 or 2 players. The A difficulty is easy and B is difficult. In the difficult mode, the Sea Hag shows up, which is one of Popeye's nemesis on the cartoon. The Sea Hag's this old witch that in the arcade she chucks bottles at Popeye, which also Brutus does too, and he has to punch him or avoid him, or if he gets hit, he loses a man. I didn't see her chucking any bottles in the NES version. What she does do is she appears on the upper right-hand part of the screen, which she does this in the arcade as well, and she's chucking skulls down. Now, that's okay. That's in the arcade, but the way it's done on the NES is ugly. There's just this sort of like sprite of the Sea Hag, and it's blocky, and it actually blocks out. It's ugly. I don't know. I was like, wow, what is that? And she chucks her skulls down. I don't know if you noticed the way the skulls bounce, but they sound just like it's a sound directly at a Donkey Kong. I believe it's the sound of Mario running. But so the Sea Hag will throw the skulls, but I don't think I ever saw her come out and chuck the bottles. Bluto will chuck bottles, but not her. In the arcade, it can get frantic because she can appear at the top of the screen, the left of the screen, and the right of the screen at the same time, and she's chucking those bottles at you. It's she's a Sea Hag. She's got eerie powers. She can appear in multiple places, and so she chucks those bottles. So that's something else that's sort of missing from the NES version. But overall, it's a pretty faithful port. I enjoyed playing it, and I did learn that the Vulture's name is Bernard. That's something I didn't know.
Interesting.
Beforehand. The Vulture's also in the cartoon, but I'm not sure I ever heard his name mentioned. A lot of people, I read a lot of the reviews for this that when it came out, and I was surprised how many people thought this was a Donkey Kong ripoff. Which, to me, it doesn't feel anything like Donkey Kong. And I was going to ask you, what do you think? When you play this, do you think this is just a Donkey Kong ripoff?
Well, I feel like this is sort of I like this more than Donkey Kong because I find Donkey Kong incredibly difficult.
Really? You like this more than Donkey Kong? Okay.
But I wouldn't consider it a ripoff as much as is Kangaroo a Donkey Kong ripoff? Well, maybe. I mean, you've got a big baddie and you're trying to rescue somebody and you're doing these tasks to rescue them.
All right.
It was probably, I'd say it's derivative in the way that the levels are designed and things like that. I mean, there's platforms, there's ladders. It just depends on how you define a ripoff. It's definitely not a clone.
I suspect when a lot of these reviews were written about Popeye, it was early in the video game platforming genre, and they just assumed that anything with platforms was a Donkey Kong ripoff. And so I'm going to give them a pass for the most part. But I mean, to me, he can't jump. That in itself makes it, it's not very Donkey Kong. One thing I should mention before I wrap this up is that on every board, you'll see a little can that floats around. And if you're a Popeye fan, you know what this is. That's Popeye's spinach. And when Popeye eats his spinach, his theme kicks up, and Brutus, see I did it, he takes off running away from Popeye. And it is very satisfying to go over and pound the crap out of him. And he flies across the screen and dumps himself in the water, which is that's cool. It happens on every board. You get one can, and you sort of have to save it You know, that's your panic button.
Yeah, that's your smart.
You know, when you die, it comes back. So at that point, I mean, if you're dead with only a couple things left to collect, you might as well go over and get that spinach and go over and beat the tar out of them.
One of the things that I don't like about this game is that you've got this bucket on the first level,
right?
And if Brutus is standing directly underneath the bucket, you can punch a punching bag that's just randomly hanging out there,
yes.
And then that will hit the bucket, and the bucket will fall. I've never once successfully been able to do this.
Well, if you play this in the arcade, and actually I got it to work quite often in the NES version. In the arcade, if you eat the spinach, and when he comes out, there's a point as he's getting out of the water and starting to move that it's always the same. You can get him almost every time.
Okay. So there's a trick to it.
But I mean, a lot of times on the NES version, I would just wait till he was near me and hit the thing. You don't always get it. I like it because there's nothing funnier than a big goof, big fat goof, who's doing a little jig with a bucket on his head. I always love that. And I'll tell you, it is satisfying to hit him with the bucket, go get the spinach, and then wait as he's got that bucket on his head, then cream him, and watch him fly off the screen. I mean, one thing that we should probably mention is Bluto Brutus is, I mean, he's the star of this game.
Mm-hmm.
This guy
has more personality than anybody else.
He does everything. He'll jump up to get you on a platform above you. He'll lean down and swat with his arm. And he'll even, if you're a couple levels down, he can jump down a full level and then reach down real quick and get you from, I mean, there's nowhere that's safe from him.
And that's another thing that makes me believe that this is a better game than Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong just basically stands up there like a big oaf in Donkey Kong. But this one, your antagonist is mobile and he is dangerous.
Well, I'm not going to agree with you on the fact that I don't think it's better than Donkey Kong. I like Donkey Kong more.
Well, Donkey Kong is it's your favorite arcade game.
It is one of my favorite arcade games. And the fact that Popeye can't jump is because Popeye could get in the spot where this game gets frantic in a hurry, especially when Sea-Hack's chucking those skulls and his bottles flying everywhere, and it's very frantic. Donkey Kong's a more controlled game. Yes, there are barrels and fireballs and stuff, but you can you have more time to plan. Popeye, it's like a frantic chase. It's very much like the cartoons. If you ever watch the cartoons for Popeye, most of the show, Popeye's getting the crap beat out of him.
It's a very Rocky-esque situation.
It's very much like wrestling, and he has to get the spinach, make a big comeback, and then go over the heel. He has to crush this guy. And the game does a good job replicating. I mean, as far as games go that are based on something, I mean, this captures the spirit of the cartoon quite nicely. So I will give it credit for that. So I had a chance to have a quick look. Well, I should mention one more thing before we move on to eBay. This is incorrectly listed as having a port on the Coco, the TRS-80 color computer. It does not have an officially licensed port. What they're talking about is a game called The Sailor Man, which was a clone, which is put out by Tom Mix. If you're into the color computer, you'll know Tom Mix did a lot of clones. He did Donkey King and stuff like that. And I was telling, in fact, I sent Bo a video. The TRS-80 color computer version of this is outstanding. With the exception of the palette, it's sort of superior to almost every other home port of this. It was really good. And it was so good that apparently it fooled some people in Wikipedia. And I saw this mentioned on a number of sites. I guess they pulled their data from Wiki. But there was no official port of this for the color computer. It was a clone, a great clone, but a clone. So on eBay, as far as the black box games go, in terms of loose cartridge, this is not that bad. I saw it going for as cheap as $5, and around $15 you're sure to get one, which is it's not bad. Now, if you want the box and the instructions, the CIB complete in box, you're going to be paying. I saw a couple go for $40 or $50. But I also saw some go up to $139, $149, which, when it comes to Nintendo, this isn't like the 7800 from last week where that was not that collectible. People are grabbing these Nintendo boxes left and right. And so, this is one of those things where the market's hot, and so your price is going to vary. If you catch a good deal, under $100, I'd consider that a pretty good deal.
Yeah. I'll be watching you as you leave to make sure you don't suck that one under your coat.
Excuse me.
So one other thing that I learned about Popeye is that Nintendo, I don't think, had a whole lot of faith in this as a long-term prospect, because they let their licensing deal with King Feature Syndicate lapse after this port, and they never released it for any other system ever again.
I guess they didn't. And let's face facts, the Popeye property is cold. I saw that it had a phone release.
Well, there's been tons of other Popeye games, but Nintendo has not made any.
Right. Yeah. And you know, Roy, does Nintendo need Popeye anymore?
No. Once they had Mario, you know, I'm sure that they thought, well, let's hang our hat on this guy.
And plus, why share the profits with another? You know, I mean, Roy, name any licensed properties that Nintendo pushes heavily?
Yeah.
You know, really, I mean, they don't need to. They got their own stuff, so it makes sense. And I will say, just as a closure, I've played the Popeye sequels on the Amiga. Avoid these at all costs, particularly Popeye Wrestling. It's one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. Do not wrestle with Popeye, an ill-conceived title if ever one was made. So, Bo, let's talk about your game.
Okay. Well, my game was Urban Champion. Ooh. Okay, so this is another one of the Black Box series. However, I don't own this. I chose this game thinking that I did own it. I don't have it.
It's amazing. There's a couple you don't have.
A couple I don't have, yeah.
Oh, we know what that means. Christmas time's coming.
Yeah. So this was released in 1984 for the Famicom, and then it came out in 1986 in the US as part of that 17-game initial lineup. This was a recreation of one of Nintendo's Game & Watch titles. There was a Game & Watch game called Boxing.
Yeah.
And basically what they did was they took that game without changing any of the controls and they set it in an urban environment. You know, they made real sprites instead of the your little LCD guys. And in Urban Champion, the object of the game is to knock your opponent back and back and back through a series of screens until you see this open manhole at the end of one of the screens and you knock them in there. Once you knock your opponent into the manhole, then the round is over. Confetti spews from one of the people that live in the apartments above the shop where you're fighting, and you get a little round marker just like you would in Pac-Man or an early arcade game. Usually it's a fruit or something like that will appear at the bottom of the screen. The controls are as follows. If you hit A, that's your weak punch. B is your strong punch.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
The old 1-2.
When you push up on the controller, your hands go up to guard your face, and you're in a position to fire a punch to the face. When you drop your guard with the down button, you can hit them in the gut. You can also push backwards. If you push backwards, you'll kind of throw up a block, or you can also move backwards slowly if you push back. So it's a very simple game. You have a stamina meter, and when you begin each game, you get a stamina of 200. The lower your stamina gets, the easier it is for your opponent to knock you backwards. If you are pushed to the edge of the screen and you sort of fall off the edge of the screen, then you lose. If you lose 3 rounds, that's the end of the game. Okay. There's a couple other things that sort of make this game neat. If you're fighting for too long and your time runs out, then a police car will drive up and it will take away the guy who's the weakest. So it's sort of the Blades of Steel rules of fighting, where if you're losing the fight, then you're the one that gets penalized. One of the most charming aspects of the game is that if you're fighting, and things are going along, just randomly sometimes a police car will drive by.
Yes, I love that.
And when that happens, your guys just kind of move to the side of the building where you are, and they'll look up and start whistling.
Yeah, that was probably the best part of the whole game.
Yeah.
That always tickled me when that happened.
And they put their hands behind their backs. They do their best to look innocent. So you're fighting in front of, this game is called Urban Champion, so they really make a big deal out of you're fighting in a city. You've got a skyline in the back, you've got some street lights, and you're fighting in front of such unique locales as the bookstore, the snack bar, the barbershop, and the discount shop.
Really, that's all the places you fight in front of, if I'm not mistaken. This is a very limited town.
Yeah. So what did I like about this game? I
want to hear this.
Well, there's not a whole lot to like, but I did like the music. What music there was. It was kind of jaunty tunes,
it was great,
interstitial music. It's the classic NES style.
The NES has a harmony to its. I mean, the sound when it does these little harmonies. It's great.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah. I like the backgrounds. I thought the backgrounds looked pretty good. I mean, it's a building with a skyline, but I've seen lots of buildings and skylines in other games, and they don't look this good.
To me, it looked, the names of the stores are written in like BASIC.
Right.
It's like, what would they You could. That's the best you could do. They just literally have like those generic texts. Discount store, barber shop.
And again, you've got to remember that this was released in this form for the Japanese market. So they weren't expecting Japanese people to really do a deep dive into what these English words were.
So do you think in Japan they have, do they still say discount store?
This is the exact game.
Really?
Yeah.
So okay. Well,
because this game is set in an urban environment where there's lots of fisticuffs. That ain't Japan. That is where we live, the good old USA.
So this is what they envision, what we're doing every day.
Exactly.
Beating the tar at each other.
I did that just before I came here. Beat up somebody in front of the discount store.
Did you? Well, there's plenty to choose from around here.
And again, like we talked about, the police car stuff is neat. It's cute. And one thing that we didn't get a chance to really look at that makes this game really unique is the 2-player head-to-head option. This is probably one of the earliest titles for the NES that had a 2-player simultaneous play mode.
Oh yeah.
So that you can have lots of fun bashing each other around.
No. No, you can't.
So the cons. That leads us to the cons.
Yes.
Okay, so the game, its worst fault is it gets repetitive very quickly. You start out and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm hitting this guy, I'm hitting back. Something cool was going to happen. No, nothing cool ever happens. You just keep on beating the same guy over and over and over again. You've got this really limited move set. And the biggest Achilles heel of this game, to me, is that this game was released a couple months after another beat 'em up was released for the Nintendo. So this came after. Hand me that box right there.
This one right here?
It's not on camera.
It's a tremendous.
Yeah, it came out. Urban Champion was released after Kung Fu.
That is astounding.
And that is a nail in the coffin.
Can you imagine they get this thing ready to box up and they're like, what else we got going out this month? And they're like, well, we got this. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Ooh, that's not good.
Kung Fu is the game that I should have chosen, especially since you were doing another arcade port. This is a fantastic game. The action is fast and furious. You've got kicks, you've got punches. You're fighting all different guys of different stripes. So Urban Champion, it just doesn't have much.
I want to talk to you about what was tell me about the message you sent me almost directly after the show last week. Tell the fine people.
This was like probably on Monday. We shoot the show on Friday. I was like, Aaron, I've got to change the game. This game is just too bad. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Because now I want to go back even further. After the show, after the show last week, when the little song plays and you see us chatting, that's real. We always do it. And Boat goes, Popeye? Oh, why'd you go and pick Popeye? You had all those NES games and you picked Popeye? And I was thinking to myself, he's grilling me for picking Popeye? Does he know what he's done? Yeah. And you didn't know what you'd done,
I'd never played Urban Champion, but judging from the box art, I thought, man, that looks awesome, Yeah, it's not awesome.
Now I have a story related to this game, amazingly.
Okay.
Of course, my brother and me, like I mentioned, we had an NES. Now, this is more Brent's console. But I would occasionally go in there and mess with it. So we went out and, this is back when you could rent a game, right? Even back.
That's another thing that the NES changed is the rental market started with the NES.
And trust me when I say thank you, rental market, because we went out and we liked Yar, Kung Fu, and all the other games, and Karate Champ. We loved all. So we rented. I think even I pushed for it. It's like, let's get this Urban Champ. This looks good. And we took this home. And this is one of the first times I distinctly remember this, when you have renter's remorse. I remember we put this in the game and we fooled with it, and we were like, is this it? Is this all this is? And it was. It was. I mean, I don't think we ever turned it on again. I mean, we played it 3 or 4 times. It was horrible. And let me tell you something, when my brother gives up, it's over, because he'll play almost anything. As far as Nintendo games go that they produce, this has got to be amongst the worst games they did.
Well, it's funny. I listened to, there's an excellent, how you sort of have this unhealthy affection for Shane R. Monroe?
It's not unhealthy.
I've got sort of the same thing for this guy named Jeremy Parrish.
All right.
He does an excellent game-by-game NES. He's actually done several series, but it's mostly Nintendo focused. And he did an episode on Urban Champion, and he was talking about why this game, this truly awful game, has been re-released so many times. So this thing has been out on e-reader card. Do you remember the e-reader
Yes.
card?
Yes.
This was a thing for those people that don't know. This was a thing that you could plug into your Game Boy Advance, and you could scan. I think it was the Game Boy Advance, or it was either that or the GameCube, and you could scan in these little credit cards, and it would load the game into RAM, and you could play it.
Yeah.
This was definitely for the Game Boy Advance. There were all kinds of titles released, black box series titles because they're just so small, and Urban Champion is one. Then it was released in the first Animal Crossing game on the GameCube. Then it was released on the Virtual Console. It was also released as one of the couple games that was released for the 3DS in the 3D Classics series, where they actually redid the game totally and made it so you could play in 3D.
That's unusual.
And so, everybody's wondering, why is this crap game, why does Nintendo have such love for it? And his theory is that there are still the people that are making these decisions at Nintendo are the old schoolers. And these are the guys that have so much nostalgia for the early, even before Nintendo got into video games, the kind of electromechanical games that have really simple concepts. Because like Wild Gunman was basically a video game version of that.
Yeah.
This game was based on a Game & Watch game. So there's a lot of good memories in these guys' heads that are still surrounding this series. So they're not looking at it like, oh man, this is a crap game. They're thinking about, man, remember when this was new and this was awesome on Game & Watch? And so
you might be right. I will say this: I having not played this for decades, you picked it, I played it right out of the gate, and I'm not the Nintendo master like you or Brent. I got to level 10, which I thought was respectable, and was moving along. And for the first couple of us, I didn't even realize I was a strong punch. I was using the weak punch. I was like, man, I'm killing this guy. Something else I like is if you get pushed into a manhole, the bad guy gets the confetti parade.
I do like that too. You're right.
There are touches of the Nintendo flair in this. Mm-hmm. It's just you wonder why they didn't elaborate on it more. I mean, if you ever played like a game like Hogan's Alley, if you played Hogan's Alley, it's a zapper game. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like it's a one-trick pony too in a lot of ways, but the zapper makes it a little more tolerable.
Right.
But I mean, these early games. Thank goodness for the arcade ports, because I'll tell you right now, people weren't swarming to the NES to play Urban Champion and Hogan's Alley.
But one of the things that I love about Nintendo is that even in a really horrible game like this one, there are still touches that make you smile. There's touches of personality, and that's all Miyamoto. He was the creative lead on this one,
that's baffling.
Yeah, I don't know for sure that it was him, but I can feel like he was the one that said, "Hey, why don't we make these guys retreat, and we'll have this cop car come, and they'll act like they're So it's a horrible game. But there are touches of things that I like in it.
It makes me want to beat the crap out of somebody in front of the discount store. I will say that.
Now, you might wonder, how long does it take you to complete Urban Champion?
I can't imagine.
So to complete Urban Champion,
you
can complete it. Do you actually get the rank of Urban Champion?
All right.
It appears on the screen. I found a playthrough on YouTube. It took this guy 1 hour and 24 minutes.
Really?
To achieve the rank of Urban Champion. But you're literally doing the same thing over and over and over again. 145 rounds.
I'd like to have seen a video of that guy after he finished. Like if he went out in the street and just started wailing on people.
He became the real Urban Champion. Yeah. So I looked this up on eBay. And I'm
sorry. Just the fact that someone would try to sell this amuses me.
The cart only is selling for around $10. So this is in that same Popeye. You've got to remember that even though this is a horrible game, it's an NES black box title.
This is an indictment for the secondary market.
You can get the Japanese version of this for a song. I saw Japanese versions of this selling for $5 shipped.
From Japan?
Probably not from Japan, but they must have made millions of these things.
They're probably trying to get them out of there.
Yeah, they've been exiled from their home country. Boxed, this doesn't approach Popeye numbers, but it's still pretty up there. I saw 2 or 3 auctions end around $65. But again, you can get the boxed Japanese version for about $10. The Famicom version.
This game is really an unusual game in that it's so one-dimensional. And it was produced by people that knew what they were doing.
Right.
So everyone can can drop the ball occasionally.
Absolutely. And one thing that I wanted to mention when I was talking about the NES is I actually looked up, I thought that maybe we could start doing this. What are these systems selling for today?
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing last week with 7800. What do you got?
And I found the action set, which is the set that I got.
Is that with the box and everything?
This is the box and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's funny, it's selling for almost the exact same price that I paid for the NES back in the day. You can get a boxed action set, fully complete, for $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, 100?
You got to remember, Nintendo sold
deal.
68 million of these things, so they're still around.
I know. I picked up just the Nintendo and the cords, and I think one stick a couple years ago. I think I paid $40, and there was no box. So I mean, that's $100 seems like a really good deal.
Yeah, yeah.
With the box.
Now, loose systems, it's a crapshoot.
What
Some
if
of them sell for nothing. Some of them sell, and it's the weirdness of eBay.
And I'm assuming if you want the one with the robot, and
well,
stuff,
I looked that up
more.
too.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, the NES Deluxe set, you're paying big bucks for a CIB version of that, anywhere from $300 to $500.
I know those robots alone sell for a good chunk of change.
Yeah,
So which it's funny because they're totally worthless.
Right. It's an iconic
That's shelf
thing.
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. That is our look at the NES.
We did not do Castlevania.
Yeah, not
we did
Metroid.
Not do Zelda.
Yeah. Urban Champion and Popeye. Aaron, it's time. It's time to spin the wheel.
Okay, let me make room for the wheel here.
All right.
Sorry, Rob. You're gone.
So we have added a new system to the wheel since last week.
All right.
You may notice, if I spin it around here, that the TurboGrafx 16 has been added.
What do you mean, Bugs? You're not going to try to put it in during the show?
No, I've learned my lesson.
Yes.
It's all pre-show.
We
from
figured
now
it out.
on. Okay, so we're going to give this wheel a nice spin. And here we go.
All right. Got a lot of English on that boat. Come on, Spectrum. Let's see what we got here.
Game Boy.
Okay, wow, Nintendo to Nintendo. We're back again.
All right. Well, so Aaron, do you want to retrieve the envelopes?
Oh, yeah. Probably should do that, shouldn't I? Let me grab those right now. Okay. Here it is, the Game Boy. So we have predetermined some choices here.
This is the first handheld system we've done on ARG, I think.
Here you
right?
go, Boat. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely the first one. So I guess it's my turn to go first. And I'm going to pick, because I'm old school, Boat, as you know, I'm going to pick Hyper Load Runner.
Oh.
Hyper Load Runner, and I spelled load wrong on my little sheet. That's how in the know I am.
Awesome.
Load Runner, which is basically what I am, the load. What do you got?
I am not going to drop the ball this week.
Oh, dear.
We are going to play The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening.
Oh, boy.
My favorite game in the Zelda series.
Okay, I've never played it, and I don't like any Zelda games, so I'll see how it goes.
All right, well, I guess that's it. That wraps up another edition. So, Aaron, why don't you take us home?
Well, we'll be playing Game Boy next week, and until then,
adios. Sorry, I'm so used to wrapping up the show that I...
Take us home. I'm going to take us home, Boat.
I like the way that you tipped your hand by saying, I hate all Zelda games. So, good work with that.
I haven't played this one. I haven't played it, though. This may be the one. This may be the one that turns me around. So we got 2 Nintendos in a row.
Yeah.
The wheel is not a random thing.
So all of the people in the chat, let's see here. What did they want?
I saw someone rooting for the ZX Spectrum. You know, we even put you guys on the wheel.
Yeah. we've got chat choices on there.
You can blame Boat. He always spins the wheel, and he perpetually he doesn't fulfill the needs of the chat.
Yeah. You're right, Hasifa. The clicker should be on the right-hand side. I have no idea why. This is a wheel of...
I thought the thing would be up here.
Yeah.
But no, you didn't do it though.
Well, it's because...
I know now we don't. We need a little arrow here or something. That'd probably help.
Well, it's right beside the presents. It's fine.
I didn't know when you first showed me that. I was like, here we go. And I looked at it. I was like, how do we know what we're picking? But you knew.
Yeah.
You knew.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
All right.
Surely by now people realize it's not a worked wheel.
Yeah. Do you know why we don't use the section on the clicker? It's because the game it's not readable. Like, it's so much cooler to have the thing right there so you can read it. That's why. That's the rationale.
Boat put a great deal of thought into this wheel.
A great deal of thought and a great deal of money. The wheel is the most expensive. It's the most expensive expenditure.
Than the green screen, the cameras, the guitar.
It was. This wheel was more expensive than the green screen
That's
setup
embarrassing.
and the lighting setup.
What were we thinking? We gotta have a gimmick, right? I gotta use the facilities and entertain the people, the fine folks. Hi, everybody. By the way, I didn't get to say hi to the chat. We love the chat. Oof, excuse me.
So yeah, eventually we will get to the point where we have nothing but UK and European computers on the wheel. We're working our way. We've done pretty much all of the Atari systems. There will never be another Atari system on here. So yeah, we're getting there, and we got the Amstrad here. We got the Spectrum. And we'll be adding more stuff. I know that Aaron wants to add the Coco/Dragon 32, which I guess you guys had over in Europe. So, but yeah, that was the NES is sort of that's my system. I love the NES, and so I was glad to do it. I'm not glad that I chose the game that I did. That was a real bad mistake, but. Yeah, Atari's gone. I can't believe it's like we've done 5 episodes and 4 of them have been about Atari. We did the Atari 8-bit was 1, and then we did the 2600 and the 7800. I guess we could do the Lynx at some point in the future, but not right now. Yeah, we're definitely going to put the MSX and the Sharp X6800 on there too. And so I definitely want to do a lot of the more obscure.
As soon as someone sends us one of those, I'm more than happy to put.
It's on the Xbox, man.
I would love to have one of those.
Yeah. All right.
Give me 1 second. And clear I don't want to destroy a bunch of stuff. It's all sitting on the floor.
What do you got over there?
Your Nintendo.
Oh.
Your black box.
Oh yeah. I'm going to replace those on the shelves.
Hey, in the news segment, I'm going to go off script a little bit on a couple things that I didn't post.
That's fine. You can do whatever you want.
They're not really Amiga items. They're related.
Paul, you've never had any. Paul has never played a Nintendo system. He once played a Wii for half an hour.
Which Paul?
This is Paul Kitching.
What?
Game savant Paul Kitching.
A guy like him?
Yeah,
most successful.
You could probably have several world records on the Nintendo if you sat down in front of one, Paul. All right, you're gonna have to entertain the chat for a second.
Where are you going?
Use the facilities.
Oh Lord!
I've also got to get my Perrier.
You can take those.
All right, I will. Thank you, sir.
You can take those and go. Hi guys. What's a good word? Let me see who's in here. The clicker though. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Crazy Americans. Don't bunch me in there with boat. Because that's a boat gig. I had nothing to do with the wheel. I just came up with a weird concept. You gonna do that? I thought we're gonna do that before the show or during the show?
During the show.
Oh, okay.
Just like we've done every mailbag ever.
Dude, we haven't done them all that way, have we?
Every single one we've ever done, we've done them.
Okay. I don't know what he's smoking tonight. You gonna go upstairs? Well, that one's no good?
I gotta get my water. I told you, man.
Go ahead. Why do you even acknowledge me? Just keep going. He's in a mood tonight, y'all. Have any of you guys played one of those Sharp X6800s, 68,000s? Thank you, UK Retro Gamer. The MSX, that's another one. I saw an MSX in the flesh at last year's con up in Columbus, and it was neat. I'd like to have one, but they were super expensive. Get the VIN. Necronom, you've got a VIC-20. Do you ever use it? You owned a 68,000. So what's the scoop? ARG. Was it? Would you say it was a good system? I mean, the games look pretty good on it. Awesome. I had access to a VIC-20, but I never actually, played with it. They just sort of sat in a box. So it's flaky. Oh man, it's because it's a full computer, isn't it, RG? Hey, did any of you guys see the piece? I think it was Retro Caveman, or whatever that guy's name is, that was out on YouTube yesterday that had the Amiga versus the Mac. Anybody see that piece? It was an awesome little video that he put up. If you like to brag about the Amiga. That was great. I love that stuff. And I used to run the Mac emulator on the old Amiga that was unaccelerated, and of course he put the Blizzard in there. But damn, I couldn't believe that dude was playing those Mac games at full speed. It was amazing. You know, those accelerators are outstanding. What do you got there, Boat?
Only the finest.
Boat had to go get his Perrier. That's what you bathe in, isn't it?
It's the only thing I drink. It's the only thing I live. These are for you.
Oh, thanks, dude. What a fine fellow. I take back half the things I said about you while you were gone.
And you can take back this, too, because this has been here for far too long.
Give me that guy. He can sit right up here with me. You don't appreciate my Smurf? I'll set him right there. Right beside the ARG Presents logo. I probably ought to go.
Well, I got it.
So, now, Edvin, do you have a vampire? Who here has a vampire? Raise your chat hand. Because it seems like there's been some wacky antics in the vampire community, but I mean, I guess they're still pretty super awesome.
Here, let me help you out a little bit here.
Because I'm blind?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insulting right there.
What are you talking about?
That is insulting.
They make the large font mode.
Yeah, but that makes me look like a dumb guy, Aaron. I can't even see nothing. I'm not that bad.
Well, now you don't have to lean forward.
But I did that I want to become one with the chat.
Okay.
What color would you figure that sweater would be?
This?
Yeah.
You know, several girls commented on, several of my female students commented they love this color on.
Because they want to wear it, I'm assuming. They probably thought it came out of their closet.
Well, I really can't argue with that. It is kind of an effeminate color.
It looks good on you, though, Bo.
Thank you. It's sort of my Scandinavian look.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's not where I figured it was going.
Where did you think it was going?
Oh, man. You have a way with color and sweaters. Like, can you imagine me in that sweater? It's not going to work. But you pull it off.
You never know until you try.
Oh, man. I don't know, dude.
Do you own any sweaters?
No.
I've never seen you in a sweater.
I have worn sweaters in the past, but it was not a happy day when I wore them.
Tell me about the last time you wore a sweater.
Oh, God. It would have been... I can't remember the last time. Uh-oh, the stream froze for the RG there.
Yeah.
Let me unfreeze it. You might want to undo that. I guess I know you're getting to it. You didn't forget, but I'm just mentioning it in case you forget.
You mean what?
The AR, the logo.
Well, I've got to move us to our Amigos scene here.
We're back.
I know. It's okay. Let's see. Video capture device.
I need to ask you guys a question. So Blackpool, I know you guys just had your what is it, Retro Revive or whatever that thing is they've got over there, the big huge retro show. Anybody go to that, by the way? Thank you, Gary. Blackpool is a seaside town, right, Boat? Now maybe you can answer this. So how long would it take to go from Blackpool to, say, London?
I don't know.
You don't know? So that's what I'm asking,
so
because
that's a
I'm trying
for the chat.
You know, because
yeah, UK Retro Gamer lives in Blackpool.
So I'm assuming you went to it, RG. You know, I was listening to Dinosaur Pie before I came over. I don't know if you listened to that. And he was talking about the Blackpool event, and he was talking about how they have the one in Manchester, and they have the, I guess London gets one. They have these things. Leeds, I think, gets one. And he's like, these things are too far away, you know. And I'm trying to determine how far is too far away in British terms.
Right.
You know?
3.5 hours by car.
So that's not that far then, really,
No,
is it?
It's like driving to Columbus.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, fellas. See, in the States, what?
Sorry.
Boj.
It's getting real over here.
See, in 4.5 hours, not that far. Like, I drove that much for work the other day, and it was no big deal. You know, I guess we just have a different sense of driving. Like Boat said, for us to go to the con in Columbus, it's at least a 3 hour. We just have a 2.5. That's about more than 2. It's about a 3.5 hour drive.
Cincinnati's 3.5. Columbus is about 3.
And oh, donkey rides. I could get down with that.
Oh, you don't want to know about the donkey rides in Blackpool.
What, don't
it's a bad
I?
Scene.
Have a little nip and go ride the donkey. I want to feel what it's like to abuse the donkey for a while as opposed to getting abused.
Would you like to consult my recent search on trombone mouthpieces on eBay?
Wow.
If you want to be like this guy.
Legs spread defiantly and what is he wearing there? A leather outfit and he's got his horn?
Pop that up on the thing here. That's the chat.
He looks like a tool, but if I may be so bold as to say.
He's the most famous freelance solo trombonist of all time.
So, fellas, are you saying that the roads that you guys have to cope with over there in the UK, are they crummy? Is that what I mean? Is that where you don't have the big 4-lane interstates? Is that
they do? They're just not used to it.
Man, you got all kinds of craziness going on over
here. Well, I'm leaving that up. I'm trying a new thing for you.
Is that for me?
Yes.
So I can watch this. This is almost like a teleprompter.
It is. You can start.
I should just have my notes transferred over. It would never work. Full of potholes. And listen, Treyguard, I can dig it. Our roads out there. You ever played Moon Patrol? Doom, 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 doom. We need the moon buggy to ride on these West Virginia highways after the winter.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad scene.
The holes are unbelievable.
Yeah, on I-64, on our marquee road system.
Do not veer to the right under any circumstances, unless you have the Moon Patrol car. 1 lane if you're lucky. Oh, geez. But I mean, you're on the West Coast of Norway. I'm sure it's beautiful up there. Right? Yeah. Norway. That's exotic.
It is exotic.
We're here. We got nothing. We don't have a beach. We got nothing. What do we got? Snow.
Yeah.
Hill folk.
Meth. Actually, the meth is gone.
We got heroin to beat the band. If you need heroin, man, then every road looks like 1 lane. Just 1 lane. You're mainlining.
All right. What else do I need to pull up here?
I don't know, man. I've never seen you do this much prep work. You got a music stand. You did it again.
Yeah, I've got to do it from now on. I've set the bar.
That's what last week was. That was the bar. Mad Max too. That's about right. We need the big gun turret plopped on the back of a Buick. Dad, what are you doing?
Just pulling this up. Just making sure everything's
ideas. You list all the ideas.
Well, this is my notes screen.
You have a pre-show notes? I don't take notes on a pre-show.
No, this is like when I think about what should we. This was way back when there was still snow, and I was like, well, maybe we could talk about what our favorite game to play during snow days was when we were kids.
My favorite game to play is try not to die on the highway on your way to work.
Instead, we spent 2 hours talking about like gun control and stuff. So
gun control. Yeah. We'll do it again. I'm ready.
Never.
Let's have a debate.
All right. I think we're ready to start Amigos.
How do you figure this is going to go tonight?
Well, I hope it goes well.
No. That's what I mean, fool. I mean, how do you winter games? He's got it. That's right. Where do you want to fit the mail in here?
We're going to do the mailbag first thing right off the bat.
Do we have any feedback we need to go over?
Just the mailbag.
That's it. So no comments about our tireless labors.
Well, I mean, people leave comments on YouTube and stuff, but
they're bad mouthing us every time. Let me see here. Let me get my.
Did you get a new phone?
No.
I think it looks new.
New phone?
Yeah.
Do I look like a Commander Rockefeller?
Well, you walked in with that thing when it was new, and so I just figured.
I didn't buy this.
Well, you need to get that same person to buy you a new phone.
Oh, yeah. Just keep the money flowing, Mom. I want to say, let me get my business together here. Oh, no, not that. Hold on, just give me 1 second.
Okay.
It's almost
I'm not
here.
going anywhere.
No, hold on, Bo. Hold on.
Sorry I didn't give you the comfy chair tonight. I didn't even
notice.
I meant to give you this one.
This chair.
I don't know how we ended up where we were.
I know how it worked because you wanted the good chair and you gave Dummy the crap chair. It's okay. Dummy's cool with it. Okay.
I've been loving that new recliner, by the way.
Oh, I know, man.
It's like the best thing.
I got 4 bits of news, and we don't have a whole lot to talk about with site updates.
Okay.
Do we? I mean, aside from the Dreamcatcher video, and I think that's all we did this week. I tried to do videos, but they kept failing horribly. All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. This is the show where I just have to sit back and you just drive. I just react. That's what I do.
You're good at reacting.
I'm like a ninja golfer.
You are.
Look how thick this is.
Oh, let me show you this real quick before we start. This is for your eyes only.
For your eyes only. Remember who sang that?
That was Fleetwood Mac.
Wrong.
Right?
Sheena Easton.
Sheena Easton. They were almost the same.
No, Sheila.
Sheila E.
No, it was Sheena Easton. Yeah, sorry. They're close. They're both Prince chicks.
Yeah. Were they?
Yeah, they both.
Who was the lady in Miami Sound Machine?
That was Gloria Estefan.
Tomato, tomato.
You know, Gloria Estefan, Sheila E. Yeah, it makes sense. They have no letters in common. What am I looking at here?
All right.
That's good.
I thought that might tickle you.
There's my next poster right there. I gotta have that.
All right, I'll make a big one for you.
Oh, sweet Lord, that's funny. Oh,
Okay.
I'm ready. Take us to the house. Take it home, boat. Whatever you said to me on the last show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about... We're going to have to do it again.
What happened?
What are we doing? What are we playing? Assassin.
Assassin.
Okay.
And also,
we gotta...
And I looked at Special Edition, too.
Yeah, me too. Okay, we got to have this talk before I start the show.
What did I do this time?
No. I mean, you've got to be like, all right, we're going to do Assassin. Don't forget, you big dope.
But you spent the whole week studying the Assassin.
I know, but then I just forget it.
It's the sweater.
Okay, here we go.
Assassin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm Assassin.
And I'm Aaron. You should abbreviate Assassin. I think you can get away with it.
We're going to talk about Assassin and Assassin.
No,
you want to start again?
Oh, yeah, clearly.
I just thought, we could let it ride.
Oh, man. This is going to be a disaster. How much of this stuff did you have?
I had one of these sequin. Oh, I've still got a little bit left.
What is that?
This is the dogfish head sequence.
It matches your shirt
perfectly.
Does.
Man, I didn't think about that.
I think that shirt is clear, and you just drank so much of that's become your body color.
Wow, that would be weird.
Okay, but come on. Come on.
Okay, here we go.
Open hand slaps.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about Assassin and Assassin Special Edition.
All right.
But before we get into the assassinating, we're going to open some mail. We got a nice package. This package came from one Mark McDonald, otherwise known as Tapes from the Crypt.
Sorry, not that.
Yeah, he did not send us the Smurf. He actually sent us this big cardboard box.
This is from Tapes from the Crypt.
Tapes
my
from the
good
Crypt
and dear friend.
Yeah.
My brother in magnetic media. I'm ashamed that I threw all those videotapes away, for real. And I'm ashamed because I look over what he does on Twitter. I'm just like, I suck.
You still miss your big collection of VHS tapes?
Let me put it this way. I just lent out the VCR yesterday to a buddy.
Oh.
He's like, how many tapes you got for this? I was like, not that many. I had so many.
What did you keep?
Family video. There's a video of me and a couple of my friends singing Blister in the Sun at Kings Island. I kept that. I kept the, that's about it. I mean, I some Simpsons tapes that I had, some pinball stuff I had, not that much. And you saw my tape collection.
Yeah.
It was freaking mammoth.
Massive. Yeah.
So tapes, not only thank you for whatever this is, but I apologize on behalf of the videotape collecting universe because I threw away some good stuff. It's a bummer.
Yeah. All right, tear
Shall we open it? Now you have no idea what this is.
Well, I know what it is because he asked me if we wanted it, and I said yes, we do.
Ooh, it's an Amiga 1200 box. Let's see what's in here. Can you? Yeah, thank you. Oh man, that's a toughie, eh? All right, here. That's always a good sign. And you got the Amiga 1200 on there. Let's see.
Very slick.
It says something here, but okay. Let's see what this is here. All right, we've got a manual of some sort here. Oh, I can see what this is. Oh my! So you've got this manual here. You want to look at that?
Yeah. So this is the A1200.net Amiga 1200 case. That was the Kickstarter that we talked about from episodes 3 to 89.
This and, and this and Defender of the Crown.
Yeah.
He said it's this lovely Amiga mug. Isn't that nice?
Sweet.
I guess you probably get to keep that, but
well, I am the coffee drinker.
And also, you don't have an Amiga 1200.
Yeah.
And this. Look at this. I will be the coolest dude in all the land with this black Amiga case.
That looks super awesome.
Let's remove this from its plastic here. I'm going to violate all warranties here. Look at that, sir. Holy moly. That is gorgeous. Now, these are the cases that were Kickstarter, like you said. And I've got to say, they did a tremendous job. Look at that. You would swear on your uncle's grave. That's a straight up Amiga case. Have a look at that.
That feels exactly like the one that we ordered for the House 500.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and but the thing about this one is that it's got all the extra ports.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the extra ports. Yeah. Ooh, snap. Now look at these ports here. Are there actually extra ports back here?
I don't know.
You made that up? Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's a lot of holes back there, so I just figured.
But the Amiga's got a lot of junk that goes through the holes.
I've never looked at the back of the Amiga.
This is so nice. Tapes, a good man.
You got your trap door there too.
Got to have that.
Yeah.
I had to buy one of those. I've had to buy 2 of those now. This is awful nice. Yeah. And I've got a badge that'll go right here, a nice metal badge.
I can't wait to see your 1200 in there.
That's going to be sweet. Thank you very much. Gosh.
Why don't you leave that right up front?
I will. I will. That is super duper, above and beyond. We appreciate that. Gosh, what can you say? I'm utterly speechless.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Super nice.
Huge ups.
And for those that are on the fence about picking up one of these cases, and I'll tell it like it is, that's a solid looking case. I mean, like I said, it looks like a straight up black case that could have been made in 1989 or 90, whenever these things came out. It looks dead on. Gosh, that is great.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch. And thanks for the mug too.
Yeah, the mug's awesome.
That's
I will
awesome,
drink from it regularly.
You probably will.
All right, Aaron, are you ready to dive into the world of Amiga news
this
week?
I'm ready. But I got the Gambletron 5000 right here.
All right.
Fire this thing up. So it wasn't a huge news week, but there was a few items, and I'm going to go off script a little bit on a couple of these. So, I've got to push a great video from our good friends at the Guru Meditation. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch this yet. Have you seen this?
I saw when this rolled by, and it got a lot of action on Twitter.
It did, I can tell you that. And it's all over the place. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. They do a piece on Samia Halaby, who is an artist, an 81-year-old lady who does art on her Amiga 1000. And gosh, the guys shot this just like they were documentary makers. I mean,
this looks just as good as the what was that Amiga document, Viva Amiga? This looks just as good as that.
They did a great. I watched and I was just like, man, these guys are the tippity top.
Yeah,
they're way up the list.
I mean, there's us. No, and they're just a little bit below us.
and you do, since you do most of our character, I'm not going to ban because you do. I mean, you do a good job.
These guys
have skills to pay the bills.
They do. They're awesome.
Our skills make bills.
They are
like the wheel, for example, comes to mind. But this is a really interesting piece too. Normally I'm not an art guy. I know you're stunned, but this was really entertaining, and it's all just this lady talking about her art, and she talks about the Amiga, and she's like, boy, at the end of it, she's like, man, if they made a new Amiga, that'd be great. I'm like, I'm with you, lady. It's nice to see I've got something in common with someone so elderly, but it was great.
Yeah.
And I love the way she has the Amiga. She's got her Amiga on this long like a bookcase. I mean, because she paints all this crazy stuff all over the house, and then when it's time to use the Amiga, she pulls up she's got this clear plastic that she pulls over.
I mean, I would not want to show my parents many of the Amiga videos that roll by us, but this is one I think that they would get into just because it's a good human interest story.
Yeah, and also like you said, they got a lot of jack, a lot of action with this video, and for once, someone got it right. This is the stuff that needs to be pushed.
Yeah. Because
the Amiga, first and foremost, as it was pitched, was a machine that would make art.
Right.
And lo and behold, and it was neat to see. And she really goes. I mean, this chick's not just some chick that sits there and de-paint. She's programming this stuff. Right out of the gate. So it's pretty cool, pretty neat. Now, this is not news, but it was news to me. So I'm just going to bring it up, and you know what I'm talking about. So. On our sister show, ARG Presents, which I'll plug, a couple weeks ago we did a ColecoVision episode, and we did a game called Smurfs Rescue at Gargamel's Castle. You remember this? Because your shirt reminds me sort of like a Smurf that had been finally mashed and then spread about. So I was like, there needs to be a cool Smurf game on the Amiga. All right, I don't know why, because I was doing research. And so I looked up Smurf, and sure enough, game pops up. I'm like, this looks pretty good. And little did I know that I'd be going down the rabbit hole here into this crazy controversy that was this Smurf game. So the guy that made this game, it's a little public domain game. It's just like you're a Smurf, you're jumping around. Inexplicably, at one point, you become Minnie Mouse if you watch the gameplay. But it looked good. It looked real nice. You know, I thought this looks pretty good. It sounded good. So anyway, this guy put his game out. He made it on Backbone, and he put it out. And then a day or two later, he got some mail. And the mail was from...
It wasn't an Amiga 1200 case.
No, it was not. It was from Studio Payo, and it was, "We're going to murder you" mail. They were suing him, and they were coming after royalties. They were killing this guy. And this guy, and this is all spelled out in the English Amiga board, he was baffled, and everyone else was baffled, too, at the fact that this guy had made a game, a little, nothing happening, free, public domain game on a 30-year-old computer that he was getting taken down by the Smurf people. So just the fact that they knew about this is impressive, that they could find out in this small community that the people that own the Smurf rights could come get him. So needless to say, he took down, not only did he take down the Smurf game, and quit all the other stuff he was doing, he completely quit Amiga. He was
wow.
This literally ran him out of the scene. Now this is like several years old, and so I'm sure to a lot of you this is old news. But I couldn't believe I was baffled at the fact that this happened to this poor guy. So if you're out there, pal, please come back. You know, we miss you. And I'm sure Payo by now has moved on to, you know, kindergarten walls and wallpaper in Brazil. You know, wherever they're at. But the game actually looks pretty good. And hilariously, through the Wayback Machine, and I actually have it linked, you can still get the game if you really want to play it. You can get, there's a hard drive version, and there's also a floppy version. And if you want to go play it. Now, the only other games made for the Amiga that were Smurf related, and sadly I remember this, is a game called Smurf Massacre.
No.
So if you don't like Smurfs or you're angry at the Payo Corporation,
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this was an unlicensed title.
No. Yeah, where's Payo when you need him? I remember playing this back in the day. There was also another game called Schoolyard Massacre, which is much less funny now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Where you just basically slaughter these Smurfs. This was high comedy. And I remember Barney got the treatment years later. People didn't like Barney, so it was Barney the Slaughter.
Yeah, I remember
Every once in a while, our society creates something so hated that someone feels the need to have them shot. There you go. So, but anyway, there's that. Now, we don't have a link to this because it's not really Amiga related, but it is. I noticed in the past week, there's been a lot of rumbling in the stunt car racer department. I saw that it has been ported, I think, to the Atari 8-bits.
That's right.
Got a port, and I believe it just got another port. What was the other one that just came up? It got ported 2 times.
I believe
what was the other one? I can't remember. But
yeah, it definitely got.
If you're in the stunt car racer, and who isn't, right? Because it's super awesome. You know, and I think it's neat that they're porting it after all these years, and it would be interesting to see how it plays, because you know it plays fine on the 1000. So it should be portable to a lot of different stuff. And the 8-bits, yeah, they should be able to do it. Oh, the Jaguar. That's what it was. It got ported to the Jag. The Jag needs every game it can get. So this is a great thing. And unfortunately, I've got no way to play it on the Jag because I've got no way to, you know, the Jag is one of those consoles that really doesn't have an SD card solution at this point, and so you know I'm boned on that. But still, the fact that they're making something for the Jag, I don't know if they're going to release it on carts or whatever, but that's actually one card I might think about having a look at.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and the Jag homebrew scene's sort of popping. I mean, in a weird way,
relatively speaking.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, it can't pop any lower than it did, right?
That's
I mean,
true.
It's popping now, big time. Let's move seamlessly into our site news, and we only have really one thing to talk about this week. But what a thing we've got! Our good and dear friend, the Dreamcatcher, as gangster as he wants to be, has put out a RoboCop video. It's not even about RoboCop. It's about eSwap, but it's RoboCopy. You know, and DK actually does he actually speaks. He
does the voiceover in this,
and this is really a nice treat.
Yeah,
I hope he puts more of these things out.
I have a feeling there's more to come from our man Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, because as you know, he's super duper talented, and this is a good video. It's entertaining, and I enjoyed it. I've never played Eastwell. Have you ever played that?
No, but it's funny how this could have been one of his. He has this long-running series, Dinomorphs and Zitto, or it's copies of games.
Yes.
I can't say the words because I don't know them. But this is definitely one of those where many ideas were borrowed from the RoboCop series.
Yes, and it is sort of a revelation. I'm looking at the chat here, and they're down with the clown. Dreamcatcher is sort of a solitary, quiet man, but now
he's coming out of his shell.
That's
just
right.
like the Turtles on tour in '89.
What the hell was that?
You know what I'm talking about.
You mean like the band?
Do you remember when they did their live action rock music tour, the Coming Out of Their Shells tour?
Well, I mean,
coming out of a shells.
Oh man,
it sounded just like that.
Man, I've never hated the Turtles more than that. And you're gonna sing at the end of the show?
That's the song.
Holy smoke! You can see the numbers peeling off into that beautiful boat. Nice. Well, that's all I got. Good Lord.
But yeah, Dreamcatcher actually does speak, and you can hear his sultry tones in that video.
Wow. Me and you have a different definition of sultry.
Hey,
just like we have a different definition of green.
Everybody
it's the
got
same
their
exact
something.
thing. You ready to go?
Let's go.
What's next?
We're going to talk about Assassin.
Assassin. This is now. Do you remember who suggested Assassin? Vote right off the top of your head. This is another one of our listener suggestions.
Right. I want to say that this is...
Boat springing into action.
Yeah.
He's going to work.
Okay, I just didn't want to say it wrong because I've been wrong before. Adam Battersby, a.k.a. Treyguard, Patreon, and so he suggested this title.
Yes, and so here we go. We had a look at it. Now, did we like it? Let's find out. So Assassin came out in '92.
It was a good year.
Good year.
I was in 6th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I was 3 years out of high school.
I started playing trombone in '92.
Oh my God! Are you still playing it now?
I played it today.
How'd it go?
Went pretty well. I've got a concert on Monday.
Do you ever stand like that dude in the picture you showed me with your legs spread out, the trombone at your side, and a big leather suit?
That's sort of the end game for me. I haven't got there yet, but I'm on my way.
You've got to be super freaking cool to pull that trick.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were we doing? Assassin. So the game came out in '92, and this is a Team 17 joint published. Team 17 of Worms fame, of many, many games. They did not develop this particular title, though. That fell upon an outfit called Psionic. We'll get into them in a minute. But again, this shipped on 2 discs. You had a couple guys in here that had done a few interesting things over the years. This was coded by a fellow named David J. Broadhurst. And he was one of the fellows that worked on a couple games we've covered over the past couple years, including Bionic Commando, which I've looked at, and Bubble Bobble. So and Sly Spy. So he had some pretty good titles.
So this is an original game, but up until this point, it sounds like he's just done a lot of codes on a lot of ports.
Well, they did some other stuff. He worked for a different outfit before. Psionic was sort of a group that was basically formed. It was just a couple guys that formed. I guess we should go ahead and talk about Psionic now. So Psionic Systems, because they didn't do that much. It was set up by Broadhurst, we just mentioned, and a fellow named Hayden Dalton, and they left Software Creations in '91, which presumably is where they did the other things that we just mentioned. Their first game was a game that later was basically known as Dojo Dan. I looked at Dojo Dan just because I enjoyed the name. And Dojo Dan looks and plays exactly like you would expect. Guy in a gi whooping that butt, platforming around. I found an interview with Hayden, and he mentions that this is it's on his blog, which I recommend if you could find it, and I'll link it. But he said that the startup budget for Psionic was £4,000. Right? Not that much. And they rented an office over a wedding shop in Oldham. Is that the way you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Oldham, yeah. And they said they had no heater cooling, so they burned up in the summer and froze in the winter. So these are starving programmers, basically. So they were around for 3.5 years, and they did 6 titles, which for 3.5 years not bad.
No.
All right. So the 6 titles they did, of course, I mentioned Dojo Dan, and you had both the Assassin games. You had a game called Overdrive, then you had a game called Apache, and then you had Daffy Duck in Hollywood. I think Daffy Duck in Hollywood is a Genesis game. They left the Amiga at the very end and rolled into the Genesis and some console stuff to get some action, because I guess things were going south, and eventually they went out. But they were doing stuff for Team 17, and of course, the way you know that you're doing stuff for Team 17 is when the guy that does your sound effects and music is Alistair Brimble,
yep,
who rolled into town like a gunslinger. It's like, what do you need? And of course, he's done the Alien Breeds, Body Blows, Super Frog, Agony. He's done a ton of stuff, you know. So if you know anything about music and sound effects in Amiga, you know who he is. So this game ran on the ECS and the OCS. As far as I know, it didn't have any ports, and never appeared anywhere else. According to my research, did you hear it from any other ports of it? It doesn't look like it would appear anywhere else. I mean,
it has an Amiga look
to
it.
It absolutely does. It really does. So why don't you discuss what exactly this game is?
Okay. So this is a sort of... lots of people call this game a Strider clone.
Yes.
And they're not wrong. It's...
Wow, I didn't expect that.
You're moving through different environments. You're dispatching bad guys. You've got a weapon of some kind. In the original Assassin game, you've got a boomerang.
Yeah.
In the Assassin Special Edition, they realized it was stupid to have an assassin with a boomerang, so they gave you a gun.
Oh,
like
we're gonna have to throw down on that, Mr. Boat. I disagree with you, but go on.
And so you basically you're moving through all of these different locations. You're on the hunt for this bad guy. You go through, your typical different environments that you find in games like this: forested sections. There's construction site. Different layers of things. And so it's that's the game. I mean, that's what it is. You pick up power-ups. You blow up a lot of stuff. That's it.
So you're right, except for the boomerang part, but we'll get to that. So the original Assassin, all right, has 6 levels, and that's being generous at one of those levels. You start, first of all, you start by being lowered out of a helicopter, which is always great, or some sort of hovering. Mm-hmm. You got ropes into the woods. Mm-hmm. You're like here, and he's going. Like there's been several games where you
Contras like that.
That's right. And then so in the forest level, and this is where you sort of learn how to control your guy.
Right. It's like a tutorial level almost.
Now I will say this, with one button, right, and we've discussed the various problems with that. This guy controls pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a little while to understand exactly how the climbing and the swinging yourself up worked, but once you get it, it's really cool.
It is.
This game gives you a level. Having played Strider on the Amiga, like, this is way better than that. Now, if you're going to go into the Strider on other systems, then that's a debate. But
right.
in terms of the Amiga, there's no comparison, right? So
it's sort of the Lotus versus Outrun kind of thing,
right,
where the original game is better than the port.
Now, when a guy can fire in all directions, what do we say it's like? It's like Turrican. We say that every time. And so this guy, this guy can throw his at least in this version, he can throw his boomerang straight up, left, right. You can throw boomerang.
Yeah, it's not quite Turrican.
Right, but I mean, you could literally throw your. But I mean, still, you can throw it any way you want, which is cool. The game is. The levels in this game are incredibly long, especially the first couple. They're really long. I noticed that the last level is really short, and the one before it is annoyingly long. But then they're not as long as the first couple. I think the super long levels. And thankfully, if you get killed, they don't make you start over, because you would be totally screwed. So there are some invisible checkpoints along the way. So in the first level of this game, you're in the forest, and there are also caves that you get into, right? And you encounter, at first you just encounter guys with guns. There'll be guys hanging from trees. But the most annoying characters are the dudes with the dogs. There are these dogs that come up, and they're short, and I hated these stupid dogs. I give a time hitting these darn dogs. Did you have that trouble with the dogs?
Well, the issue is that they don't make ducking and firing an easy maneuver.
Right, that's true.
It is possible. I read things online that said it wasn't, but it definitely is. But you have to hit the down arrow, release the down arrow, and then fire your weapon. You can't just do a quick down shoot.
Right.
And that's annoying.
Yeah, and so now as we move on later on to the special edition, the dogs get phased out. But in the original edition, they had dogs, and then they had like guys that were with the dogs that had guns. And then as you move into the caves, what's every game got to have in caves? They got big old annoying bats. They're all up in you. You're trying to get away from these stupid things. One thing that I like about the game is that aside from the fact the guy can climb up, he can also like go hand over hand and go like grab the roof of things.
He can scale walls with ease.
This guy really is nimble, and again,
he's an assassin
for the most part. Ducking and shooting aside, and really shooting while you're doing this stuff. It's not like a second button would have been great, but what are you gonna do? But the way he travels is really intuitive. I mean, it feels good, and that doesn't always happen. It's not super collection heavy. This is not like a Super Frog. There's stuff out there to get, but everything has a purpose, and so that makes it a little more tolerable. And also, some of the collectibles actually help you, which I'll get into that in a minute. So, just to go over the levels real quick. There's a forest level with the caves. That's the first level. And you're going to see bad guys, and you have bats and dogs. And then every level has a boss, okay, almost every level. And the first level has this guy, this robotic tank dude. I don't know what, I mean, he's sort of indescribable. He just says it's like a tank bottom. Well, I guess that's sort of a robot melded into it or something.
It's sort of like a, what do you call that animal that's half horse and half man?
Minotaur? Or a centaur.
Centaur. It's like a centaur tank.
Okay, that sounds good. And he's got flunkies with him too. You have to
little mealworm guy.
I didn't find him that tough. And then the second level is the construction site. Basically, you go into this place, and you had to climb up all these girders, and your guy can walk on like the wire, what they call the cables that hold things up. He can walk on them real stealthily. He's like a more acrobatic Lionheart. He's really could get in there. Lionheart did some of this stuff, but this guy does it better. And on that level, a lot of what you've got on that level are like mines and these round things that shoot bullets in different directions. I mean, really. The bad guys in this are sort of, they're not going to say they're generic, but a lot of it, there's like a lot of mines and stuff that just explodes, and it's not like you're going to be like, man, this has got the best, rogues gallery of our day. It doesn't. It's just got some generic. Did you feel differently? In terms of just your runabout guys, I mean, they're different.
Yeah, they're all different looking.
Yeah.
But they don't move with the greatest of ease like your guy moves.
I thought the dogs are actually probably one of the better bad guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they were annoying.
Yeah.
So at the end of that level was, I did like this boss. He's this robot. He's this big, huge robot, and he has occasionally he'll just generate this buzzsaw, and it'll spin up, and then he just shoots it at you, and you've got to jump around and kind of shoot him. And I thought that was, I thought he was pretty interesting. I mean, I beat him, but it took a while, and of course I had unlimited men, but I mean it was still tough. So then third level, the missile command level, and it's a bunch of caves and underground areas with missiles in them that are just huge missiles. You walk across them. This had acid pits in it, which, and we'll get into this. Well, I'll go and talk about it now. One of the problems of this game is that it had blind jumps, which we've talked about in other games. That's a real hassle.
Well, it does, but this game has a really good mechanic a way around that.
Yeah, catching the wall.
But you can also, and maybe you don't know this,
all right,
but you can hold down and the screen will scroll down to show you what's beyond where you are.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that makes this game, that's one of the things that is really cool
about
this game.
That is good. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Yeah. That's awesome. Because what I would start doing is, like, when I saw something that looked like a dip, I would just crawl down into it and see what it was.
Yeah,
that takes longer. Yeah, that's great. The missile command level has some guys on these seated turrets and some other stuff, but I mean, which those guys are not size appropriate. I guess they've got like midgets or dwarves to man these turrets. I thought it was kind of strange. And the end boss, you have to blow this computer, and the end boss of this level is this it's this weird worm thing that is around the computer. It's like, and you have to basically shoot him. You know what I'm talking about? Did you get that far?
I didn't get that far.
That's pretty much where that's about the time where I could get without. But I had to super cheat. I got through the whole game, but I cheated. The next level is this is the weird level, the genetic asylum. All right, this is where I guess they've been doing like mutation experiments, and these. This is scary if you're in West Virginia, but you had these guys with hypodermic needles chasing you around. Trying to stick you.
Everyday occurrence here in Mountain
It's
State.
like a day down gun hunting thing. And then eventually you get underneath the genetic area, and then this is the caves, and there's all kinds of mutants and stuff walking around. That level was pretty bizarre and trippy. And the end guy there was this, and I described them as if you ever watch Futurama. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
I've seen it a couple times.
There's a drink in it called Slurm, and it's generated by this giant worm.
Slug. I remember that episode.
This guy looked sort of like the Slurm creature, and he generated out of his body these silver guys that sort of looked like the dude from Terminator 2. Remember the guy that was like silver, and he could come at you? It looked like those. And you don't fight the worm, the big worm freak slug. You fight the flunkies, and when you kill enough of the flunkies, he dies. And then that's pretty much the end of the end bosses until the very end of the game. Then the fifth level is just called the Midans, how you want to pronounce it. That's his labyrinth.
Or Medan.
And its labyrinth is an annoying pain in the butt where you go aimlessly around like an idiot until you hopefully can get out. That's it. There's no boss. And then the last level, Medan's lair, and you fight him. And did you see the end of this game?
I did see the end of it.
I'm going to spoil this because hey, that's the way it is. But the end level of this, you go up a couple platforms, and there's this tubby guy in a pair of blue jeans and a white shirt. Right. He's just walking around. And I was like, who the heck's this guy? So I went up and pummeled him, and he started crying. He runs off the screen. I was like, what in the hell was that? Surely that's not the end guy. And then he comes back in like a mech. And the mech is not that tough, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was that hard.
Well, when I was watching the playthrough, he just totally destroyed him almost right off the bat.
And I thought to myself, this is one of the world's largest letdowns. This is the end guy? How did this tubby, bald, fat guy, and God bless him because I'm one, but you don't see me. I don't have a mech. What's happening here? But this is the guy that ruined your life or whatever. You got to go take him out, and then the game just sort of ends. There's an ending picture, wham bam, Bob's your uncle, done deal. So this game has 3 different levels of play, difficulty levels. I learned early on that if you pick the first level, the easiest one, you get to play 2 levels of the game. That's the end of it. If you pick the second level, you get to play 4 levels of the game. You pick the last one, you can pay them all.
Some of the Double Dragon, I think, is like that, and maybe even one of the Contra games is like that, where you're going along thinking, oh man, I'm going to be able to beat this thing, and then it takes you back to the title screen because you've chosen the wrong difficulty level.
Right. Well, I'm not going to lie, I thought that was lame, to be honest with you. I'm right. And the levels are Rookie, Arcade, and Ultimate. So there's that. So what did you not like about it? Let's go there first.
I think that you can, this game is another textbook example of poor level design on the Amiga platform. The levels are they're like these labyrinths, these leveled labyrinth. Boy, I'm trying to choose the most difficult to pronounce words to describe my feelings. They're very difficult to negotiate.
Yes.
You don't know where you're going. You're not giving. There are voice commands that are like, you'll be going, go left, go right.
If you pick up the little mouth.
Yeah. And it's like, so you have like the voice of God telling you what to do, but they're not really that helpful though, because you can go left, but there's like 3 different levels of left that you can go to. So this is a lot like Turrican in that regard, and really a lot like Lionheart, and really a lot like almost every platformer on this system.
I wouldn't lump Lionheart in there, but go ahead.
Oh, I totally would. This is more like Lionheart than any game that we've ever played.
Well,
the only thing that's different is this game actually controls well.
Oh, we had to go there.
What I do like about this game is your guy is animated like nobody's business. He looks great as he's running around. He controls extremely well for, like you said, with a 1-button setup. I mean, I had no problem getting him to do what I wanted him to do. The ducking and shooting thing is a little bit awkward, but once I figured out what to do, I could even do that well. I've got no complaints about the way this game controls. I've got no complaints about the power-up system. It's a little bit strange that if you choose, speaking of the options screen, if you choose the automatic boomerang rather than the manual boomerang lets you choose your power-ups. The automatic one will just say it's as if the developers of the game were choosing for you. And I'm like, why would I not do that? Because the developers know what's best.
I tried both. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on a couple things. Again, I don't think it's on the same level as Lionheart, but also I thought the level design wasn't bad, actually. And the reason,
well, when you've got unlimited lives, to negotiate it.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was clever. I thought the addition of the power up mouth was interesting because I mean, especially there were a couple of those where you really need that. We should probably just while we're thinking about it, let me talk about what the different power ups that they had in the game were. So there are boomerang power up capsules. You can get if they're just letters, right? You can have a wider arc when you throw your boomerang. You can have one that makes it more powerful. There's one that makes it go longer and makes it go faster. So that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different power ups. Mm-hmm. Then something else you've got. If you hold your button down and at the bottom of the screen you'll see these different slots. And you pick these power-ups, and these are like your mega powers, right?
Let me opine.
Oh, please.
This part. Okay, so I think that's okay. Like that is a way to get around the one-button limitation without having to resort to the keyboard, using the spacebar or whatever. Right. However, the actual effect of these power-ups is probably one of the most underwhelming things I've ever seen.
It looks cool when he's getting fired up.
He gets fired up, and then he opens his mouth, there's a flash, and it doesn't matter which thing you've picked, it's already over. You've already missed it. The mech thing, I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. He's going to get one of these mech suits, and we're going to go to town. No. He releases like one of those little mouser things from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that runs off the screen in the opposite direction of where the enemies are.
You know what I'd hoped for was, you remember when you fill up your magic spells in Golden Axe, and your guy hits the button and there's dragons and crap going on and flames. It's crazy time.
Right.
In this, the powers can be a bit underwhelming. If you time them correctly, I used them on several of the bosses, and if you time them correctly, they can do a lot of damage. Like you can go through a boss pretty quick if you have enough of these things built up. But yeah, they're not visually that pleasing, and they're not necessarily useful. You've got the Robo Walker, which is sort of what you were talking about, the little mouser. Then you've got these proximity mines, heat-seeking missiles, which I didn't get those hardly at all. The Flame Path and the Flame Storm. These aren't as cool as they sound. I'm not gonna lie to you. They sound better than they are. Now the things Bo were talking about to help you get to the level, those were like bonus pickups you can get. You can get energy pickup that gives you more health. You can get extra life. You can get speech aid. They look like a little mouth. And at first, I was like, what in God's name is that? And then once you get it, it will tell you which way to go in the level. Which I mean, in the labyrinth level, that got me through it. I mean, I don't care how many lives you got. I mean, that thing was crazy. And there ain't no map. You're on your own.
But you were just praising the level design just a second ago.
Well, it's a labyrinth, dude. What do you want?
I want not that. Well, I want not a labyrinth.
Listen, we can agree on one thing. The old labyrinth level is a cop-out, right? Listen, the game needs to get extended about 20, 30 minutes. How about a labyrinth level? We'll just put a bunch of crap out here. This game also features stars. We should talk about the stars. So if you get 100 stars, you get extra life. That's pretty much it. If you get 50, you can use it for like a big one of your mega weapons, but it takes some of the stars, so you don't necessarily want to use them that way. It's better to get them. And the stars, one thing the stars do, which again I think this goes back to the level design, is it makes them. They will put stars in places you can go, and sometimes it helps you try to find out where the heck you are. And if anything, it tells you where you've been. So that helps a lot. Overall, though, I enjoyed the game. I was surprised how much I liked it, much like last week's game. I'd heard about this game for years, and I had this game back in the day on disc, but my disc didn't work. I remember that, so I never got to play it. This is really the first time I've got to sit down and play it, and I enjoyed it. I mean, yes, is it perfect? No, it's not.
Yeah,
but it does have some issues. But I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty fun. It was one of the better run around and blow stuff up games that I think we've played.
Yeah, I had fun with it. I think that it's the level design aside. I think that it controls better, and the way that your weapon works, and I could understand the systems better, and didn't feel as cheated as I do with so many of these other types.
Now, did you say you played a version of this that gave you 2-button support?
Well, the WHD load version, it was basically up was assigned to
Did
the
that
second
help
button.
you at all?
Well, I never played it without it,
Oh,
so
I
I'm
see.
sure that it did.
I used up for jump, just like I played a standard. By the way, I will say something else. This would not play properly on my 600. And I tried a couple different versions of it, but for whatever reason, I could not diagonally jump forward. It was the darndest thing. I tried all my joysticks. I couldn't figure it out. I asked the brain trust. I don't know what was going on, so I had to emulate this one. It was kind of a bummer, but you know, it plays good. I enjoyed it. When this came out, it got pretty good reviews. It got mostly 80s and 90s. Amiga Action gave it a 91. Amiga Computing gave it an 85, pretty good. Amiga Force was the lone score to 79%, and the One gave it a 92. Not too bad.
No.
You know, I will say this game, if you were playing this like you normally would on Amiga, there are no level codes and there are no saves. You're basically, the manual says there are these hidden continuation points that you can find, but I don't know what they meant, and I'm not sure I ever found one because I was able to save states since I wasn't playing on the Amiga. So your mileage may vary.
I think if you were reviewing this in the Amiga bubble, you know, if you weren't looking at games on other platforms, then this would rate, I mean, very high.
Yeah,
very high.
Oh yeah, I recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and the way your guy moved was great.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're going to move over. Because this is a quick and easy jump. We're going to move over to the Assassin Special Edition. All right, this was released in '94, and I looked into this to try to figure out what in God's name was going on with this. And so I don't know how much you looked into it, but I'll try to expostulate. Assassin Special Edition is basically sort of a remixed version. I mean, it's the same exact game with a few exceptions or a few differences. This came out only a few years later in '94, so it was a quick turnaround. And apparently what was happening was Team 17 wanted to release some budget titles. And so what they would do is they would release them with a special edition moniker. The Alien Breed got a special edition. There were a couple games that did this. And what they did was they would go back and actually fix some stuff or change some stuff that players had mentioned. You know, supposedly. They tried to fix some things, okay? So there are some most similarities, but a few differences in this one as opposed to the non-special edition. A lot of the complaints had been that the game was too difficult and the time in between the levels were too long. And some of those levels are really long. And of course, since there's no save states and no saving the game, you were pretty much hosed if you got killed. So they changed that, and also apparently some people were like you, dipsticks, who wanted to get rid of the boomerang, which was awesome. And so they replaced the guy's boomerang with with a gun. Unfortunately, I didn't like the gun as much. And so this was a budget title when it came out. It's the same guys. I mean, there's no one different. It's the exact same outfit. And the differences were just basically like bookkeeping-y. So what happened? So what is the difference in this game? For starters, remember that level with the forest and the caves? That's gone.
They just cut it out completely.
So there's no more arriving on the helicopter. You start in the construction level. Secondly, what they did is they split the levels up into like sub-levels. Now, these are effectively the same levels. I played the whole first game, and I played a bunch of this one. I couldn't sit here and tell you that they're the exact same levels or they're not. They look the same, they played the same, but they were split up. They were much easier. The game is much easier than the first one.
Do you think how much of that do you think has to do with the gun rather than the boomerang?
It's nothing. I think they made it easier.
Okay.
I don't think the gun actually does you any favors, to be honest with you. They replaced the boomerang with a gun. They also they gave your guy a makeover. He now has black hair and has a gun. You know, same guy, except I guess it's the same guy. But they split the levels up. I think it's like in the 4 levels per level. So, and it's funny, in the first game, you'd go through the whole level, you'd get to the boss, you'd beat the boss, end of level. Right? In this game, you're rolling along, and all of a sudden there's the exit. It's just like out of nowhere. Like, what the heck? And and it says exit, and then it says good job. It rolls up your bonuses every sub level, and you move on. Kind of weird, kind of anticlimactic. It's like the exit is just in the middle of nothing. It's like, what's going on? I didn't like that. They fixed some bugs, I guess, or whatever. But one of the things you could do in the first game that you couldn't do in this one, at least I couldn't do it. And I don't know if you ever did this, but if you could position yourself on one of those, like a slanted wall, and if you jumped up, you could pass through the wall.
Oh, well, maybe that's more of a bug than a feature.
Sometimes, and it would get you in another spot, and sometimes it wouldn't work, and you would just fall through the geometry and die. Right? You never did this?
No.
I did it, and it was cool.
Yeah.
Because you could sort of cheat. You could skip parts by just kind of, pulling yourself through the geometry. I couldn't do that in the second one. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
I guess that's good that they did that. Aside from the changing the levels up, making it easier, booting a whole full level, as far as I could tell, there weren't really any major changes. None. It's the exact same game as far as I could tell. Again, these levels all sort of look the same, so it's hard to say if they moved block here to here or whatever. I couldn't tell the difference in the bad guys. The dogs are gone, the bats are gone. That's all gone. So that whole, it's odd that they would. It's a budget title, but I thought that was odd.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and I don't know why they would have done it except to save space to split the levels up in some way. I can't explain it. What did you think about the special edition?
I played a lot of the special edition because I like the gun more than the boomerang. The boomerang is neat in that it's different. There's not a whole lot of games they don't call run and boomerang. It's always run and gun.
Yeah.
I think your guy probably looks a little dopier with his cyber suit and stuff like that.
He does look dopier. I agree with you on that.
But I like the fact that the game sort of dumps you right into the action a little bit more than the first game does. It seems like in the construction zone, you're more in the thick of things than running around in the woods. I found that I felt like the game controlled about the same.
Yep.
I didn't think that there were a lot of differences in the physics. Do you remember, did you already say if this was a budget release?
This was Team 17's budget version of its own game, which apparently they did this several times.
Yeah. So, if this was like, if I originally bought Assassin, would I felt like I would have gotten my money's worth by buying this again? Well, I guess it just depends on how much I liked Assassin. If I really liked Assassin, this is kind of a different twist on it. Maybe I would have liked it, especially if it was only like $5. So I can't say too many bad things about it.
I didn't like it as much. I like the fact that it's easier. In fact, I'll even give it. I hated the way the levels are split up, but it makes sense to do it. I just, if you're not going to remake the game to make the smaller levels make sense, I wouldn't have done it. It just the levels end weird, especially after you play. I came off just playing the other one, so I guess if you hadn't played the other one or you hadn't played it for a while, it wouldn't be as weird. I didn't like the gun. I like the fact that you could in the first game you could toss that boomerang, and if you had the long range, you could jump the other way, and the boomerang would come back to you. You could get some guys. I just think the gun's also just it's just more generic.
Sure.
This guy had a boomerang, man. A gun not as cool. Everyone's got a gun. How many guys have a boomerang? It's like 2-3 guys.
Right.
A couple Australians. That's about it. Who else uses them? So that was lame. I don't like the way he looks. I like that first level with the cave. I like the fact that he came in on the helicopter because that makes it's more cinematic.
It establishes the story.
I know you say you jump right in the action, but the helicopter's cool, man. It's letting him in. The reviewers for this version were far fewer, and really though, generally gave it similar reviews. Amiga Format gave it an 87. Amiga Power gave it a 79, and the One gave it a 92. So it's not like it went out there and bombed. Now here's the wackier thing. Team 17 said that, and this has been repeated ad nauseum on the net. Every fact place I saw had this little tidbit. This was Team 17's least successful game they ever released. It had, and people lamented that it was just because there wasn't enough interest in the genre or whatever. But that's surprising to me, considering we've played some good games, we played some bad games. This is much more near the top than it is the bottom, and I'm surprised.
And I think that you have to look at the Team 17. They've got quite a stable. So
that's true.
Even their least successful game probably still did okay.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But I thought this game overall, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, is it perfect? Absolutely not. It needs music, better music. No offense.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Brimble did he did the title screen. This is another one of those games where the music by Alistair Brimble. Yeah, he did the tune at the beginning.
I think he may have done the sound effects, or I don't know.
Yeah, he did the sound effects too. But
and the sound effects are good. But I mean,
in a run and gun platformer, you need to have something chugging along in the background to keep you,
like
hyped up.
I know you rag on Lionheart, but that music got you. You were ready to go in there and whoop a butt.
I will never say a bad thing about the soundtrack in Lionheart.
I mean, a lot of games, the sound. And this is the Amiga. We need good sound while you're kicking all that booty.
We need a sound.
Right.
A song.
That much said, I did enjoy it. I'll give it high praise, and I would go back to it. It's a good game. You can run in and pick it up. There are cheats for it that will let you. Not even using trainers. There are cheats that let you skip areas. So I'm not sure I want to go back and play through the whole game again, but there are certain areas I like. Like I said, the second one does have the advantage of being more palatable to play and real quick. You can get through a level and you don't have to go and wait around. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the power-ups. There weren't too many, and I give it the high sign. I looked this up on eBay, see how it was going. I looked both of them up actually. Now, if you're looking for the original boxed copy of Assassin, you're okay. I found them all day in the UK. I found 4 ranging from $20 box to $48 that had sold. That's pretty reasonable for a box copy. If you want just the discs, $11, not bad. Now, if you want SE, this was a more difficult. I only saw one that had been around recently. Germany, $23 it went for. So I guess it's not a big seller if you can find it. But these are pretty reasonable for something that didn't sell that well. Like you said, it probably sold pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that was our look at Assassin. Now it's time to announce the winner of last week's Patreon song contest.
I want to know what the song was. You never told me.
Okay, so last week's song was Frankly, Mr. Shankly by the Smiths.
Oh, yes, you did tell me. College music. We had that discussion.
Right. What Aaron dubs college music, what the rest of us dub just music.
No, they're with me.
So the winner of last week's song contest was Eric Nelson.
Oh, okay.
So Eric Nelson's favorite Amigos episode is Cannon Fodder.
Okay.
And so he wins this specially designed Amigos postcard that commemorates his win.
Who was the genius that designed that boat?
Well, I don't know. But whoever he is, he's really a master of his craft.
When is his art documentary coming out?
So if you would like to participate in the song contest, just send an email with your guess to john@amigospodcast.com. And Aaron, it's time for this week's song.
Oh, here he goes. Let a little bear with him here. If you'd like to send anything to the Amigos, just feel free to just send us a letter. We love it. Or send us an email, picture your dog.
We love feedback.
If picture of your dog if it's attacking you while you're throwing a boomerang at it, whatever you got. We love it. All right, this is it. This is for the big contest. You don't have the gimmick on it this week? Let me give you some room here.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready, man. Let's go.
Dan Ross, Leaf Kellogg, Alan Kilbob, Donald Tyler Levelord, John Marshall, Matthew Perrone, Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Vicky CTC, The Slow Norris, Lindo 75, Christopher Hassel, Rabbi Abbott, Chris Pools, Green Catcher, Lois, Juru, Grant Bed, Kiprin, Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Veteran Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Anthony Giovanni's paid from the crib. Josh and Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THG. Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humberstein. Daniel Branston, Brutal Barracuda. Darren Coles and Jason Wong. Stefan Sorgan, Mortensen, yeah. Will Williams, Kjol, Bjorn Barman. Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THG, just in case I didn't get a chance to sing those, I can't remember.
Oh, man. You had something good going there, and then what the heck happened there at the end? You really got into that one, Boat.
Well, thank you.
You were frightening the chat.
That's my goal in life, is to frighten the chat.
That was quite a performance. Do you ever perform live, Boat?
Just here on
Solo.
Amigos Studios.
So this is like a weekly pay-per-view for free.
For free.
Not bad.
All right.
He has to compose himself, ladies and gentlemen. That's what. Take a deep sigh.
If you would like to be part of that illustrious list of names, feel free to support the Amigos at patreon.com/Amigos podcast.
Wow. That took a lot out of you, didn't it?
It did. You know, I'm like Joe Cocker, you know.
Yeah, well, I agree with part of that. You know, you could also just say, if you'd like to defame a classic rock song, feel free to contribute to our Patreon, where Boat will ensure that your name is plastered all over.
It's hilarious to me, like when it's a song that you know.
I know that one.
I know. I knew you'd know it. You're totally joyful and into it, but when it's a song you don't know, you're like, nobody will know that.
I was joyful. I was joyful.
Even though both of those songs
are
about
the
the
Smiths.
same.
No, come on.
Yeah, who were they, really?
That's right. Finally, we agree on something.
All right, Aaron.
Yes, sir.
Next week, we're going to be talking about a new game.
We are?
Yeah. But before we talk about what that new game is,
okay,
I just wanted to remind everybody that we record live every week, and except for the times that we don't, on YouTube. So we'd love it if you join us.
Yeah, man. We always have a good crowd.
The fine folks in the chat right now, like Pishbot, Henrik, Gary, Duncan Stiles, Trey Guard, Adam Battersby himself, Paul Harrington, Brian Pope,
You scared Pope.
Yeah, well.
You scared the Pope.
I scare the Pope often. Yeah, tons of people here.
Catholic.
Neil Overman, Ricky DeRocher. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us in the chat. And as always, we'd love to have you. So next week, Aaron, we are going to be doing a new game, and that new game is...
Guess what? Scrambling to look at our list.
Oh, shoot. Come on. It is Benefactor.
Benefactor.
Yeah, Benefactor. So this game is chosen by Amigos Game Selection Committee member Pixels at Dawn, who's here with us in the chat right now.
Have we looked at Benefactor before? I don't mean on the show. I mean, was that one of the ones we...
I haven't, but you might have.
I don't think I've ever played Benefactor.
Yeah.
You are my benefactor, Boat.
Well, that's... thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to leave you all my sweaters.
And welcome, Leaf Killon, to the chat for maybe the first time. So, thank you. All right.
What?
I just saw his name pop up. I wanted to say hello.
Your stream of consciousness scares me sometimes.
All right, Aaron. Let's get out of here. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, adios.
You lost your damn mind, Boat. Thank God you acknowledge Leaf.
Yeah.
You scared Pope and you acknowledge Leaf.
All right.
I've always thought Leaf was a cool name.
Yeah. Like
it sounds very, Viking-like.
Yeah. Well, I went to high school with a kid named Leaf Walrath.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know
any of the Walrath family?
Walrus?
Yeah, Walrath.
Walrus is better.
I think they have several, aged siblings that are your age.
What's that supposed to mean?
Old folks.
How dare you, sir?
Just think about it.
Hold on a second. I got a call here. I got to take a phone call.
Okay.
Hello. I'm not home yet, Granny. I'm still making my show. I don't know what time it is, but we should. I'm finishing up right now. Yeah. All right. Did you guys eat? Okay. All right, Granny. All right. Yeah, bye-bye. It's funny how I could just feel that the phone was... That's a real world calling. They went their air and back.
Yeah.
Violently. Is this the post show now?
Well, let me start her up.
You mean we're wasting all this fine primo material?
Yeah. The world will never see you talking to Granny.
It's overtime. Yeah. Listen, I got to go get my overtime thing.
Okay.
Although, look at this. Isn't that nice?
That is nice.
I got all kinds of goodies today.
Overtime.
Here we go. Hold this for a minute, Boat.
Sorry, Pixels. Didn't mean to get you banned from the chat there.
You banned Pixels? Hey.
Nightbot did. I can't control him.
Nightbot. A shadowy bot. Whoop, you just dropped your art.
I need you to sign that before you go.
Oh, I'll sign it. Let me see that thing. Look what I got, Boat. Look, everyone. Oh.
So I guarantee you that this is the first time that our chat has laid eyes on one of those mean machines.
Look at the back. Oh, man.
So,
Sweet Georgia Brown, Boat. Here, touch the keyboard. Touch it.
Wow.
That's called the melted keyboard. I'm serious. That's what it's
called.
Is that
what it's called?
That's what it's called. That's right, Huck. Huck knew.
I find that the cooler the keyboard looks, the less useful it is.
Well, let me tell you something about the Radio Shack color computer
Mark II.
It doesn't have lowercase letters. So
just not available at all?
No, they don't have any. And here's the awesome cartridge I got with it. Nothing makes a computer more fun than a color file utility that came with it.
Now, how many cartridges would you say were released for the Coco?
100, I'd say.
Wow. Because I've never once seen one in the wild in all the years that I've been collecting games. How could this be?
How could it be? Because the Coco is not widely distributed anymore. It didn't catch on with the retro crowd, although it does have a healthy retro scene. No, it's not dopest, dude. It's just dopey. But look,
it puts the dope in dopus.
I was at the, I know I've mentioned this on the show before.
Look at that power switch.
That's right. That's the way they did it back in the day.
Okay.
By the way, came with no screws. So
it's easy maintenance.
Yeah, if you wanted to see what this looked like inside.
I would run it without the case. It looks cool.
Yeah, so I'm at the, it's funny. We were doing Popeye this week on ARG Presents. ARG Presents. That song is stuck in my head, by the way. A closing tune.
That's the best compliment you could have given me.
That's so disturbing. I was humming that today. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like, oh, God, it's Boat's outro. But, so, we did Popeye this week, and I was like, man, I knew the Coco had a really kick-ass version of Popeye. It was called the Sailor Man. It's got one of the all-time great ads. The Sailor Man needs to go get his girlfriend Elsie from the evil big fat bad guy. That's what it says. But he's being continuously hounded by the evil sea woman. And he has to go get his collard greens to save the day. Collard greens marked S for collard greens. That's what the thing says.
So really, these descriptions are better than the games oftentimes.
Well, Tom Mix did the best stuff on the. By the way, Tom Mix. Do you know who Tom Mix is?
No.
It's a classic cowboy figure.
Really? So that's not his real name?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but that's who that is. I'm assuming that's where they got the name. But
do you know anything about the clone producer Tom Mix?
Well, he did a lot of. Well, I think it was a bunch of guys. I don't think it's just one guy. I think that's the name of the outfit. But it was a great game. They did a lot of good games. They did the Donkey Kong clone that was really good. And in fact, it had more options than even the arcade did. But I was thinking about that today, and I started watching some Coco videos. I'm like, man, I may have to go out and get me a Coco one of these days, And so I went out to lunch, and I was like, I'm not going over to the Hillbilly Flea Market today. That'd be insane, because my partner wasn't there today. So I was like, I'm not going over there. And then I got on the road to get some food. I was like, what do I want? I was like, and the next thing I knew, I was on the road because I inadvertently went there. I'm like, damn, I guess I am going to the Hillbilly Flea Market. So I went in there. And I
bet they got some good hot dogs over the Hillbilly Flea Market.
I would not eat there under any circumstances because there's hillbilly fleas everywhere. And so, but lo and behold, I walk into one of the several video game stores they've got in the Hillbilly Flea Market, and just sitting cockeyed on a shelf is this lovely yellowed beauty. And I said, holy smokes. And I asked that, the two guys were having this heated conversation about whether the Chinese own all of America's national parks. I swear to you, this is the conversation I interrupted.
I am not surprised.
That's how it rolls in the Hillbilly Flea Market. The politics are coming hot and heavy. And so they determined the Chinese owned all of our national parks. Who knew? Who knew? I said, listen, I hate to interrupt your this philosophical. Yeah, but how much for the cocoa? He goes, $25. I was like, do you take a card? He goes, no. I was like, I knew the answer. I was like, okay. So, hey, Brute, what's up, man? And so I went out and got a couple bucks, and I looked at it, and it had no case screws, and it was dirty, and it had this as the game. And I was
that wasn't the pack-in?
This was packed with it. No, this wasn't the pack-in, no. And so I said, listen, Tandy, bam. And so I said, listen, this thing's got no case screws, and it's got this game. I was like, can you do 20 on it? He goes, heck, you didn't have to work on me. 20, no problem. Just a jolly old fat guy. He just wanted to get back to his conversation. By the way, the whole time I was gone and came back, they were still on the Chinese. Like 20 minutes had passed. So I laid my $20 bill down and took this sweet baby home. This was my computer, not this particular one, but this actual brand. And this Coco 2 is my computer for years and years and years.
How long has it been since a Coco 2 was in your possession?
It's been boy.
It's a long time.
Gosh, it would probably 88, 89, maybe even earlier.
Man, that's
we
crazy.
sold all of our Coco stuff to a dude Nitro to get the money to buy the Tandy that we ended up having, the Tandy TL. And so this has been a long time coming, but I'm very happy. And once I'm determined that it works, I can get a little cartridge for it that has an SD card slot. I can put all the games on there. I've got to get a couple of joysticks. The joysticks for this thing are interesting.
Yeah, those are DIN cables, like you'd hook up a C64 or an Atari computer.
Well, the joysticks on this are actually analog, and so they're more akin to a paddle than they are to a joystick. And so you can't. Now there is a method of hooking a Atari stick to it, but I think I want the actual Coco sticks.
Oh yeah.
They made two different kinds. They made the limp kind and the non-limp kind. The limp kind are these little black ones that just have a stem like this, and they just, if you go forward and move your hand, the joystick just stays like that.
It's like a 5200 stick.
And
it's not self-centered.
And then they make a self-centering version, the deluxe, that's white and black. I may try to get one of those, but yeah, Huck, I'm going to be on it. This thing does not have composite out, and there's no easy method to get composite. I could pay $30 for a thing. But I've got to do that. I'm going to try out and see how it looks. But heck, I didn't even buy this. I mean, we could do shows and stuff on it, but I just, for $20, I would have been a fool.
Yeah,
and I looked it up, and it's even a good deal.
Yeah.
But and I was, I talked to John in Charleston about using something to whiten plastic, and I wasn't really ready to go and dip my Amiga 600 in that, but I would probably. This is pretty yellow.
This is a perfect candidate for something
and plus
like that.
you can take the case clean off,
Yeah.
and so we'll probably give it a shot.
You got to get on the ball because the Sally's Beauty Supply is closing up there by the Walmart.
Well, there are plenty more.
It's the only one, man.
It's the only one.
It's the only
They're
one I go to.
closing, really.
Yeah.
That place is usually pretty packed.
I know. They said that. Yeah, my mom told me a long story about why it happened.
Oh man, too bad for Sally.
Yeah.
That's a real bummer. But anyway, it was a beautiful day. I was very pleased. Plus, all the games this week were fun. Even Urban Champion, which was stupid, was amusing in its stupidity. And of course, I love Popeye, and I was real pleasantly surprised with Assassin. I really enjoyed it. And once I understood how the guy moved, I really get a kick out of it. And a couple of the bosses cracked me up too. So it was a good week for gameplay. I got a lot of gaming in.
Yeah. Chad was over here.
Hat Chad?
Yeah, and his once every 6 month visit to Amigo Studios. And we did a special late night stream of Do Re Mi Fantasy. We're working our way through the game. Did I talk about that last week, Do Re Mi Fantasy? Okay, so this is my new.
Oh wait, you did mention. What's the scoop on that?
So this is Pishbot introduced me to this game.
What'd you do, Pish?
And man, I can't get enough of it. It's
Retro
incredible.
Bright. That's the stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, Chad came over and we played probably a good hour or two Do Re Mi Fantasy plus some other stuff, and it was a good time. So I've had a good week in gaming as well.
You know what I forgot to mention? And it's funny because I talked to the chat room before the show, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get into this. I cannot wait to get into it. And then I forgot. So I'll have to bring it up next week. But the retro cave dweller, or whatever his name is, the guy.
He was at the, oh no, he was UK Man Cave. Was it?
Maybe that's him. I don't know who he is. But anyway, he put up his video of what's better, what runs faster, a Mac or a contemporary Amiga running a Mac stuff, right? And it was an awesome video. I know some of them saw it because they saw it. I meant to talk about this. We're going to talk about this week. But anyway, of course, the Mac cost a ton of money. The Amiga was way cheaper, and so they took the difference. They bought a Blizzard card for it, right? So the Mac had I can't remember how much memory it had, but the Amiga didn't have as much, but they had the 6850 or whatever in it. And the Amiga outperformed the Mac as a Mac.
That's pretty awesome.
And they were playing like Prince of Persia and stuff like that. It was running perfectly. And this isn't like a vampire or something. This is like a card that would have been out in the day. And I always knew you could emulate the Mac, but I didn't think you could actually get games to play. They were running all the utilities. Just on everything on it. He was uncompressing files and stuff. I was like, man, I can't believe how well this works.
Wow, that is cool.
It was amazing. So it's a video I recommend. That I'm going to make sure I mention that next week, because I feel like I totally forgot about that. Good night, whoever. Good night, Trey Guard. But yeah, there was a lot of good videos out this week. There was a lot of good. Watching the Black Mirror last night, that was great. That show's quickly going up my list as one of my all-time favorite shows. Have you ever watched any episodes of Black Mirror?
No.
It's an anthology show that's a Netflix show. It's British, and it's so good that it scares me. It's so innovative. The concepts they come up with are so clever. I want to say it's like a Twilight Zone, but it's more like an Outer Limits. If you ever watch that show.
What's the difference? I always thought they were kind of the
Outer
same.
Limits is more of a science fiction or futurist sort of show, where Twilight Zone literally had a little bit of everything. But the quality of it is Twilight Zone. I mean, the writing, the way it's made, the money involved in producing it, it's top shelf all the way, and the concepts behind it are just.
So give me one of the stories.
Give me an example. The one I watched last night. Now I'm just watched. It was season 2, episode 1, but we skipped around accidentally. A dude, this painter and her boyfriend or her husband live in this house out in the woods, and the boyfriend has to take this rental van back. On the way back, or the husband, he dies. He gets killed in a car wreck. And they find this service that will take all of his social media and all the things he's ever posted, any sort of blogs and stuff, and they use it to create like a personality profile of the guy. And they use video and audio he's put up to make representations of his voice that a computer can talk through. And through this service, you can receive phone. You can talk to him on the phone, like he's there. And if you buy the service, they'll go through his personal email, stuff that he wouldn't have publicly posted, to get real intimate knowledge of him. And so this girl's so devastated that he's gone, she starts talking to this thing. Well, then they have another service that's experimental, where they literally have like a blank, effectively like a blank robot, and they basically bring this guy back to life. You know, they basically put the AI in this, like an android. It looks just like him. And you think to yourself, this is great. And she's happy. But there are subtleties that you just cannot replicate. They're not even that subtle. And sometimes the thing will be like, would you rather me not say that? Or would you rather me look here? If she asks like a fact, instead of being like, I don't know, he could use the internet to access them. It's just not realistic. And it's the trials of whether the technology that you can do this is a good thing, or it's something that you should never broach because it won't let you separate yourself from the person that died.
Right.
Very interesting episode. All the episodes have some sort of there's one where everything you ever see is filmed. You've got like an eye camera. And the perils of that, the fact that it makes lying almost impossible, for example. And it makes I forgot is no longer an issue, because you can go back and review the footage. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant show. And there's more I could go into, but I recommend it. It's not super violent. There's a little bit of sex in it sometimes. There's a little bit of violence. Nothing major that I've seen yet. But it's so creative that I would put it on your must-watch list.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'll probably watch it when it's daylight out, though. I can't watch scary stuff at nighttime.
Yeah, I hate everything. I hate everything. And this thing is, I haven't seen anything like it for a long time. It's been a long time since. The only thing I can equate it to is like the same feeling I have when I watch Westworld. It's very out of the box thinking, and it's a breath of fresh air for sure. So that's Aaron's video review. You're watching what? Old episodes of Seinfeld.
And Better Late Than Never with Shatner and Terry Bradshaw.
Oh, man. Hose loves that. Loves that show. Philip K. Dick. Tremendous writer. You're reading Philip K. Dick's stuff.
What was his big thing? It sounds really familiar.
His big thing? I don't know what his biggest thing would be.
What is a thing that he did? Aaron, did you like Stranger Things?
I did. I did hate the episode where they went with the mutant gang in the inner city. That literally almost killed the show for me.
Yeah.
I think I went off on that already. God awful.
It was the worst thing ever.
And this season was not as good as last season.
I disagree with that.
I didn't think it was as good. There were parts I loved, like the parts in the arcade, but that's because I'm an arcade guy.
I thought on the whole this season was more entertaining than last season. But the episode that, like, I'm going to not watch the season and I'm going to put it on Facebook. Is there another episode like this? Just let me know and I will not watch it.
I know they were trying for a spinoff.
Yeah.
You know, I
can't. If there's no way they'll ever make it. I mean, that's universly hated. Everybody you talk to hated that episode.
Android.
Yeah, the electric sheep thing. Right. Right.
I thought the relationship between the curly-haired kid and the ex-boyfriend was amusing. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
I like their interaction was pretty entertaining. But overall, no, I did like the first. But of course, the first season was fresh. It was a new concept. I mean, I didn't think it was crap. I enjoyed it. You know, That's right. I haven't watched too much video here recently. But yeah, I try to catch some Black Mirrors, but mostly. What I've been watching is I watch a bunch of old wrestling. I mean, going back in the archives and watching some stuff.
See, what we need to do, we need to have a series where we watch old wrestling together.
Us and a million other people have already done
I don't care because I want to watch old wrestling.
Well, there's plenty out there, and I've dipped my toe in the pool of a few things. Like there was and some new wrestling. This is sort of weird. They had a match the other night. It was Sami Callihan against a fellow named Eddie Edwards. I've actually seen Eddie Edwards perform live. A very good technical wrestler. And they'd set up a spot where Eddie Edwards was down, and he had a folding chair on his chest. And Sami Callihan had a ball bat, a proper aluminum bat. He reared back, and what the gimmick was going to be was going to whack the seat of the chair. All right? And I guess the pressure would cave in Eddie Edwards' chest or whatever. But what actually happened was the chair was a little bit slanty, and the ball bat hit the chair, slid off the seat, and then hit Eddie Edwards in the face.
Oh my gosh!
And I mean, at full power, and jacked Eddie Edwards' face up. And so there's a lot of.
What year is that?
Now it just. It happened.
Was that on Botchamania?
It just taped. Well, I don't know if that's not really a botch. It's more like an attempted murder or manslaughter. Yeah, it was. So sometimes wrestling is a little bit too far. But there's a big show coming up in Ironton, and there's a bunch of wrestlers. I mean, not huge guys, but guys that we kind of like, and some new guys we haven't seen before. So me and Teresa might make our first trip down to Ironton, Ohio, to see some wrestling, to see how that goes. Since we've kind of worn out we've seen everything else. There's no more midgets. We've seen everybody else.
You've already seen the hardcore extreme.
Yeah, we've seen that too. So, but yeah,
I'm telling you, we should do a whole anthology of every Giant Haystacks match on YouTube.
No, Giant Haystacks wrestled in the U.S. Did you know that?
I can't believe that.
No, he did. And you know what his name was? Loch Ness.
Really?
Yeah. He was horrible. Horrible.
He wasn't great as Giant Haystacks either, but that's part of his charm.
No. There was another guy, almost a contemporary of this guy, called the Yeti. He was a huge 7-foot-tall mummy.
Oh, that sounds
the
interesting.
Yeti. I don't know why they called him the Yeti.
Maybe they didn't know what Yeti meant.
Well, he is Yeti to learn any wrestling. He's horrible. And Giant Haystacks also horrible. Horrible.
Who do you think is the all-time worst wrestling superstar of all time?
The way you phrase that is high comedy. Yeah. You mean, are you talking about someone that worked full-time or someone that just maybe had like one match?
No, I'm talking about somebody that made appearances in like video games and like...
Boy, man. All-time worst wrestler of all time. That appeared in video games?
Yeah.
Oh, God, man. Virgil comes to mind. He's horrible, and I know he was in WrestleFest as in the background of a scene. So I would put him in there. Most guys that appeared in video games in the old days, they didn't really put a bunch of duds in there, you know. So the worst wrestlers I ever saw live were all guys at the local shows that were just horrible.
What about somebody like Goldberg? I mean,
Goldberg was not bad. He was great.
He was not a bad wrestler.
His greenness made him awesome. Spike Dudley was awesome, Brutal. What are you talking about? Doink was Maniac Matt Bourne. He was a hell of a wrestler. But unfortunately, there were other Doinks that weren't as talented as him. So I'm going to give those guys a pass. And I don't know who the other ones were. Steve Lombardi was one. There were a bunch. You know, there are plenty. If you ever watch the old NWA 1980 shows, they had these jobbers come out, and these jobbers were just the worst. I don't know where they got these guys. Like, they never had a match. They didn't know how to run on the ropes. They didn't know how to bump. They didn't know how to do anything. And then they'd stick them in there with, like, the Road Warriors. And the Road Warriors would just come out and just gang beat them and just murder these poor, you know, these. And that was one of the best parts of watching the old wrestling, is to see what kind of, where they got these decrepit. They were all skinny, fat,
Do you think they were
pale.
all, like, local guys that were just sort of...
I heard that one of the wrestlers would bring them in from, like, Alabama or something, like his students or whatever. But, I mean, they must have not paid the tuition or something. Like I said, they were all skinny, fat, balding, pasty. You know, they would come in and just get destroyed. I mean, destroyed. Now, there were a couple of job guys that were really good. And so the guys wanted to work with, like the Mulkeys, you know, or George South, who's wrestling George South's wrestling for ASW this weekend, actually. But he was a classic jobber from back in the day. I don't know if they had jobbers overseas like they did here, where just like guys who just got murdered every week. They got no offense, they just got killed.
They were kind of like the who did the Harlem Globetrotters play?
The Washington Generals.
Yeah.
But the Generals at least score a few baskets. It'd be like the Washington. It'd be like if the Globetrotters came out, scored all the baskets, and then at halftime they went over and put the boots to the Generals. That's what.
So you're talking about the flunkies. These flunkies.
My pitch.
They never even they never landed a blow.
I mean, they might maybe get like a side smack or something. I mean, some of the guys that they really liked, they would give them some, but most of the time they just get murdered. Depends on who you're fighting. Like the Rowers would come out and just kill you. You had no choice. You just get murdered.
It would be interesting to talk to one of those guys now and just say, what was it like being a flunky back in the day?
I've listened to this, like like I told you the story about the Midnight Express, the Mulkeys. They went to the Mulkeys' hometown. And it was for the U.S. title, and they packed this little auditorium, and it was the main event. And so the Midnight Express went in there, and they said everyone in the crowd, because the Mulkeys were these two pale, pasty, white-haired guys. They looked like albinos.
Like Edgar Winter sort of.
They were like fat loser Edgar Winters, like two of them, and they were just losers. But everyone, that Cornette said, he looked in the crowd, it was like a million pasty losers out there, like, and they were all related to the Mulkeys. They were going to murder him, and they said that they were going to go to a time limit draw, and they said the ring announcer was so sure, or the bell guy was so sure the Mulkeys were going to win any minute, he wouldn't ring the bell.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So they had to screw over the Mulkeys and pin them, and they literally went out and jumped into like a waiting car, and as a thousand pasty white freaks chased them like zombies, you know, coming down the street. You can't make that stuff up. They said the Mulkeys both smoked, so one time they went to this show and they wouldn't let the Mulkeys lose. They kept picking them up, and they were both gasping for air because they never been in a match more than like 5 minutes because they're jobbers.
Right.
They went like 15 minutes. They were begging to be pinned. They wouldn't pin them.
Man, that's great.
I know, man. I love it.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and close out the first episode of Amigos Wrestling now.
Is that what that was? It's not the first. We've actually done wrestling.
No, this is going to be the first one that is published as its own.
This is our third show
on YouTube.
Boy, we're going to have. That's going to be rough to get subscribers to that one.
And so, if you want to see more, leave a comment. And
I wouldn't check the box on that one.
And but anyway, thanks guys for hanging out with us in the chat, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.